terror threat that closed one of two tunnels under Baltimore Harbor and partially shut down the other. Sources now telling CNN 2 individuals are being questioned in the investigation. Traffic was jammed for nearly 2 hours while authorities stopped and searched vehicles, even checking underneath trucks with mirrors. Officials would not say what they were looking for, but whatever it was, they say they didn't find anything and the tunnels are now reopened. The FBI says the move was triggered by what it calls somewhat specific but uncorroborated threats to a Baltimore area tunnel. 2 U.S. officials telling CNN the threat included a reference to suspected Egyptian terrorists carrying out an alleged plot involving explosives labeled Cocoa. Let's bring in our CNN security analyst, Richard Falkenrath, also a former White House Deputy Homeland Security Advisor. I hear the words Egyptian suspects, and you know what goes through my mind right away, like I'm sure millions of other Americans. Richard, Mohammed Atta, who was an Egyptian, Ayman al-Zawahiri, the number 2 al-Qaeda operative, an Egyptian. What does it say to you if they are, in fact, looking for an Egyptian or Egyptians?
Well, it's clearly one additional piece of evidence about this possible threat. There have been terrorists who've come from Egypt. There is a very active terrorist movement in Egypt, and there have been many al-Qaeda recruits from Egypt, as you referenced. So the 2 possibilities are either there are actual Egyptian origin terrorists here in the U.S. plotting, or rather more likely, someone is giving us this extra piece of specific information to cause us to react even more strongly.
Is this smart to go ahead based on uncorroborated but specific intelligence information from one source apparently to go ahead and shut down a huge tunnel like this, an interstate that brings traffic up and down the east coast of the United States?
Well, at the level of the police chief, he really has no choice. When this information arrives at his desk and it says a threat to the tunnels in Baltimore, he has to do something. He cannot be inactive. At the level of the federal government, I'm not so sure it's the right thing to do, to leave him with that very difficult decision to make. Based on what we know from this information, there's a lot of reasons to doubt this threat, even though it has certain specifics that get our attention.
In the old days, when the information would come in, it would be very hazy, very vague, analysts trying to connect the dots, if you will, and as a result, they didn't really act. Now the information is specific, and some say, you know what, you never get intelligence that good, and as a result, you should discount it as well. You can't win out either way, I suspect.
That's right, and one of the things we're worried about is that the terrorists are learning if they give us some very specific information, we will react visibly in a tactical way, as we did in New York 2 weeks ago and as we did here in Baltimore, even if it turns out to be what we call in the business a spoof, incorrect information that they're giving us just to get us to react. And that's a real worry. If it's the case that every chief of police or every mayor who gets a specific piece of information on their desk one morning has to react visibly, we will be spoofed for the rest of our time in the war on terror.
Richard Falkenrath, thanks very much. And we're going to stay on top of this story. Much more coming up this hour and the next here in the Situation Room. But let's turn to politics right now. There's new ammunition today in the battle over Harriet Mier's nomination to the U.S. Supreme Court. At issue, abortion, a top point of contention for her critics on both sides of the political spectrum. Our congressional correspondent, Ed Henry, is monitoring this situation. He's joining us now live from Capitol Hill. Ed?
Well, if that criticism of Harriet Miers is mounting so much that Senate Judiciary Chairman Arlen Specter, in an exclusive interview with CNN today, warned Miers she has to start fighting back more aggressively, and the way to do that is to get her confirmation hearing started as soon as possible.
That's what you call a responsive answer.
Senator Arlen Specter is growing frustrated that Harriet Mier's nomination is getting bogged down.
I'm becoming more and more concerned that Harriet Miers is being tried in the media. And there is one place to have this determined, and that's in the Judiciary Committee hearing, and I intend to get that on the road as soon as I can.
The latest blow-up over abortion. The White House gave Specter's committee documents, including a questionnaire Miers filled out in 1989 while running for Dallas City Council, in which she supported a constitutional ban on abortion. Some White House allies are circulating the document to convince restless Republicans she will support their agenda. That mission became more critical after Specter said Miers privately told him a key Supreme Court decision, the underpinning for legalized abortion, was rightly decided. Miers claims Specter misunderstood her, though the senator stands behind his version and refused a White House request for a correction.
It seemed to me that the best course is to accept her view and to defer getting into it any more deeply until the hearing.
Even as Myers' allies try to shore up conservative support, they angered Democrats like Dianne Feinstein, who charged the questionnaire raises, quote, very serious concerns about whether Myers will be biased on the abortion issue.
And Democrat Chuck Schumer said that after all of this back and forth, senators in both parties are more confused than ever about exactly where Harriet Myers stands on abortion. Well,
are we getting any specific dates when these confirmation hearings before the Senate Judiciary Committee, Ed, will actually start?
Chairman Specter told me he's hoping to get this started on Monday, November 7th, so that he can get it rolling. There are others, though, saying that it could be pushed back by 1 week as they still sort through these thousands of pages of documents that have been flying around as they try to figure out her record. So it'll either be November 7th or November 14th. They're hoping to have an announcement by the end of tonight.
All right, thanks very much, Ed Henry, reporting for us, and we'll bring that news once we get it. You can check out information about Harriet Myers yourself on the web. Our internet reporter, Jackie Scheckner, is here. She's checking the situation online. Jackie, what are you picking up?
Well, the Senate Judiciary Committee's questionnaire to Harriet Myers is now available online. It's actually online several places, but we found it here at the University of Pittsburgh Law School. You can see her responses. It's a PDF file. It looks like this, 57 pages. You can cull through it yourself. Bloggers are already starting to do so. Two things are starting to pick up early. One, the note where she says earlier this year she let her D.C. bar dues lapse. She did pay them once she got the letter saying so, but people are taking note of that. And the second point is her response to question number 28. Please discuss your views of judicial activism. They are culling through that right now, and as soon as we get any substantial consensus, we will let you know, Wolf.
All right, Jackie, thank you very much. Moving on to other news here in Washington, potentially very specific and significant news. The special prosecutor in the CIA leak investigation is getting ready, we believe, to show his cards. Patrick Fitzgerald could announce the outcome of his grand jury probe as soon as tomorrow, and increasingly speculation centering on Vice President Dick Cheney and his staff. Our White House correspondent Dana Bash is standing by in the North Lawn. What's going on, Dana?
Well, Wolf, you know, we say this all the time when we talk about this particular story, but it bears repeating that we really know very little about where the special prosecutor is actually going in this investigation. But what we do tend to talk about publicly is are rare nuggets of information that we get from inside the grand jury. Over the summer, last week even, the focus was on Karl Rove. This week, it seems to be in the vice president's office.
Get the Doha round.
Vice President Cheney in the Oval Office.
We had a good, frank discussion
Smile,
on that.
knowing the
there's no question we share the same objective.
Headlines suggesting federal investigators are focused on Mr. Cheney's office, even him personally, in their search for who leaked the name of a covert CIA operative. The New York Times' Judith Miller reported the special prosecutor not only asked about discussions with Cheney Chief of Staff Scooter Libby, but, she said, Mr. Fitzgerald asked whether Mr. Cheney had known what his chief aide was doing and saying. Miller said her answer was no. Sources familiar with the grand jury testimony of current and former Bush and Cheney aides tell CNN several were questioned about the vice president's role in rebutting criticism from former Ambassador Joe Wilson, which he says ended up outing his wife's covert identity. But experts urge caution.
But the fact that somebody is a subject of questions doesn't mean that they're a target of an investigation. All it means for sure is that the prosecutor's doing his job.
What Patrick Fitzgerald appears to be probing is motive. Before the Iraq War, the vice president asked for more information on a report Saddam Hussein tried to buy uranium from Africa. Without Cheney's knowledge, the CIA responded by dispatching Joe Wilson to find out. He came back saying the report was false, and in this column mentioning the vice president, Wilson accused the administration of ignoring his findings. The president still used the Africa connection in his case for war.
I don't know Joe Wilson. I've never met Joe Wilson.
On NBC in 2003, Cheney denied knowledge of Wilson's report or even reading it. Central to the investigation is whether the administration effort to distance Cheney from Wilson, instead steering reporters to the CIA, resulted in the disclosure of his wife's covert identity.
Now, the vice president was not under oath, but remember, Wolf, in June of 2004, 16 months ago, he was interviewed by the special prosecutors, but officials here tell us he has not been since. Wolf.
Dana Bash at the White House. Dana, thank you very much. Jack Cafferty is watching this story as well. Watches a lot of stories. He's joining us from New York with some thoughts. Jack?
One little additional piece of information that may or may not be significant, Wolf, on this suggestion that Fitzgerald's ready to announce his findings is that according to some late piece of copy that we read in my office, he's going to announce what he has in Washington as opposed to Chicago, which is where his office is. That may or may not be significant, but it's probably worth mentioning. The thing that's interesting is how high up this investigation by the special prosecutor may go. As Dan has suggested, the name Dick Cheney is coming more and more into the conversation. Scooter Libby's chief of staff has been grilled at length by the grand jury, as have other Cheney aides. One former Cheney aide did tell the Washington Post today that it's implausible, that was his word, that his boss Cheney was involved in the leak of Flame's name because he rarely dealt with press strategy. Nevertheless, the question is an intriguing one, I think, this hour. It's this: what would it mean for President Bush if the vice president is somehow involved in the CIA leak? You can email us at CaffertyFile@CNN.com. It's fun to watch these investigations unfold, and I'm not suggesting that the outcome will be the same as the one in Watergate. But remember, Wolf, a Watergate investigation, how it started with just the news of a break-in at the Democratic headquarters in the Watergate Hotel. And over a very long period of time, one step at a time, they gradually kept climbing the ladder until, lo and behold, they got to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. It's kind of funny how these things work.
You know, what starts off relatively modest has a tendency in Washington to expand. This investigation has been going on for nearly 2 years.
Yeah. And Fitzgerald is famous for holding his, somebody said if he held his cards any closer to his vest, they'd be in his shorts.
Yeah, well, he's a tough guy. We'll see what he does. Thanks very much, Jack. Coming up, a conservative pays a price for opposing the president. How wide is the split on the right? And what does it mean for the Bush White House? We'll take a closer look. Also ahead, the morning after pill and the culture wars. Did the federal government block the pill's approval for political reasons? And later, a century-old dam and a state of emergency in Massachusetts. Will a devastating wall of water be unleashed? You're in the Situation Room.
Attention Medicare seniors. Is the cost of your breathing medication a burden? We can help. Call Med4Home now at 1-800-403-3528. Is opening multiple vials confusing? With medications such as Duoneb and Zopanex, you can simplify your breathing treatments. Med4Home delivers right to your door and handles all the Medicare paperwork for you. So give us a call at 1-800-403-3528. We're here to help you.
Are you listening to your heart? You should. Heart disease is the #1 killer of women. Do something good for your heart. Smart Start Healthy Heart. The only national cold cereal with ingredients that may help lower both blood pressure and cholesterol as part of a healthy lifestyle. For a healthy heart, start here.
What do you know about computers?
My daughter definitely knows how to use a computer better than I do half the time, and she's 3.5.
Hi, I'm John Scherer, CEO and founder of Video Professor. You know, I've been hearing comments like that for over 14 years now. Listen to this.
I did the Excel, and it was a lot of fun. I had a real good time. I learned a lot.
The difference? Just an hour with one of my CDs, and they're easy to use. The CD plays like a video on your computer screen. Just follow the step-by-step instruction. If you call now, I'll send you one free. You just pay a small shipping and handling. Now, the reason I'll do this is because I know that once you try my product, you'll come back to us for all your computer learning needs. You know, if you can't learn, I'll even refund your shipping and handling. So, learn a new skill in less than an hour. Try my product.
I think that's the most fun I've had, learning something about the computer.
To get your free computer learning CD, you must call now. Call 1-800-454-9709.
2 journalists, 2 hours, 2 ways to see the story.
Who's getting rich while you're filling up your tank?
Every night at 10.
It's a hard thing to close your eyes to.
Newsnight. Aaron Brown and Anderson Cooper. CNN Tonight, 10 Eastern.
I'm Maria Cabrera, and I'm a fire captain. 9/11 was difficult, not only for the entire country, of course, but particularly for firefighters. We were glued to CNN stations. The most popular news station during any catastrophe that I've witnessed has been CNN.
Welcome back. Our Zane Burgee is joining us now from the CNN Center in Atlanta with a closer look at some other stories making news. Zane?
Wolf, just hours from now, Saddam Hussein is scheduled to stand trial in Iraq. But the first day of the trial, maybe the last one for a while, Saddam Hussein's defense lawyer says he's going to ask for a 3-month adjournment. Court officials are expected to grant the request. Saddam faces trial in connection with a massacre in a place called Dujail, north of Baghdad, in 1982. 10 days after a devastating earthquake in Pakistan, the UN World Food Programme says more than 500,000 survivors still have received no aid. More than 50,000 people are believed to have died in the quake. Officials are saying unless more aid arrives soon, the toll is likely to rise. The Pakistani government's appealing for more tents and at least 2 million more blankets. Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld is in Beijing for talks with Chinese officials. As he flew to China, Rumsfeld accused the Chinese of understating their defense spending. The Chinese deny that. Also on the agenda, North Korea's nuclear ambitions and tensions over Taiwan. This is Rumsfeld's first trip to China as defense secretary. And the mayor of Taunton, Massachusetts says that the next few hours will be crucial for his town. We heard from Mayor Nunes last hour on the Situation Room, and these are some pictures that you're seeing. They are live coming to us from Taunton. A wooden dam built in 1832 is feeling the strain from some of the recent heavy rains. Now, if it gives way, it could flood downtown Taunton with up to 6 feet of water. The mayor says the dam's not deteriorated over the past few hours. Not much, at least. Wolf?
Getting back, Zane, to the earthquake in Pakistan, I know you've been looking into a really heart-wrenching question, the children who've been orphaned as a result of this earthquake. What are you picking up?
Thousands of children, Wolf, it's difficult to put a precise number on it, have been either orphaned or separated from their families. And what Pakistani officials are expressing concern about is that these kids are going to be preyed upon by child traffickers and used ultimately as laborers or as sex slaves. Pakistan's Prime Minister says that all the orphans of the quake are going to be looked after by the Pakistani government. They said as soon as the kids come in, they just take the pictures and they do not give the children to anyone that don't have the right identification. But the real problem is that, there's a potential for people coming in to just pose as the parents of these kids, and in fact, they would be child traffickers. The other thing to note is Pakistan's culture is quite clan-based, and what would happen in a situation like this is people would take in orphans or children from extended families. They'd bring them in, and the whole idea of adoption isn't really supported or promoted, Wolf.
All right, Zane, thanks very much. Zane Burgee reporting. For still ahead, the growing conservative backlash against the White House. From Harriet Miers to government spending, many on the right are up in arms right now. Our Jeff Greenfield standing by to weigh in. That's coming up. Also, all eyes in this town, that would be Washington, D.C., on Patrick Fitzgerald. Will the CIA leak prosecutor issue indictments in his investigation? And if he does, when will they come? The story in today's strategy session. That's coming up.
CNN Tonight, all new at 7. A devastating hurricane. Thousands left homeless. Tonight, Anderson returns to New Orleans to show you what life is like now. Then at 8, an operating room nightmare.
I was screaming inside, "Stop, I'm awake."
What you need to know before you go under the knife. CNN Tonight, beginning 7 Eastern.
You must be so excited.
Yeah. Actually, I've been wanting to talk to you about my life insurance.
There are times in life when you can really use expert financial advice.
Hey, that's a great point.
Northwestern Mutual Financial Network. The quiet company.
So, tell me, what are your dreams?
Well, I want to find my true love.
Aww.
And see the world. I want to go to Budapest, to Cuba, Ibiza, the Lower Antibes.
How do you make that happen?
Well, my true love's parents are filthy rich.
Oh.
Right?
I'd love to get a cabin up in the woods and paint.
How would you finance that?
I have a cookie jar at home, and every paycheck, $2 goes right in it.
I want to open a restaurant.
Me too.
Really?
How do you do it?
Well, I have an investment portfolio.
Can you show me right now?
Turn your dream into a plan with Amerivest, an online investment advisory service that helps you plan toward your financial independence. Amerivest is tailored to your goal and time frame, focused on diversification, and adjusted for your risk tolerance. Call 800-378-4772 for your free portfolio analysis.
Class of 95. Here I come.
Weekends look even better. At 50% off. Rent Friday to Monday, 50% off. Pick Enterprise. We'll pick you up.
They say he's a newsman on a mission. He gives both sides a fair shot. These days, who can you trust? Lou Dobbs tonight. CNN tonight, 6 Eastern.
Let Empire Glass replace your cracked windshield, and we'll give you 24 free dinners to Sherry's Restaurants, where you'll enjoy great food and delicious pies all day, every day. And we offer free mobile service to your home or office. So for the highest quality windshields and 24 free dinners to Sherry's, call Empire Glass today at 503-251-9881. And remember, when you think glass, think Empire.
Good evening. At 9:17 this morning, the future arrived years earlier than predicted. The future. What is it?
High-speed internet, faster downloads.
It's a video mail.
Digo, gracias, futuro, puedo detener la televisión vivo y
I mean, until the aliens get here, I'm happy with the, with the high def. The movies on demand.
There's the future, and then there's the future.
Well, which one are we?
This is the future.
The future of television and internet is here. It's Comcastic.
High-profile attorney's wife murdered. The latest, Larry King, CNN 9 Eastern.
Welcome back. The mayor of New Orleans has been in Washington today testifying on Capitol Hill, and Mayor Ray Nagin is joining us now live from Washington. Mayor, welcome to Washington. Is this the first time you've left town since Katrina?
No, I've left town, but it's my first visit to Washington. I've had numerous conversations with various officials, but the first time coming here.
All right, so the thrust of your visit is what? You're trying to get additional assistance for New Orleans, I take it.
Yeah, I basically testified earlier in front of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, made a brief presentation, answered lots of questions about what's going on in New Orleans, and then I just left the Secretary Jackson, the HUD Secretary's office, where we talked about how do we get certain things done, how do we expedite, how do we transition from the whole FEMA scheme of temporary housing into more permanent needs that New Orleans has.
What about rebuilding the city? There's huge question marks if it's really worth it as long as you don't rebuild those levees and those flood walls to withstand a Category 5 hurricane. Where do you stand on rebuilding the infrastructure of the protective wall, if you will, for New Orleans that would justify pouring in hundreds of billions of dollars potentially into your city?
Well, Wolf, it's my understanding that the Corps of Engineers already has authorization to build our levees up to heights of 17 feet, which is going to get us above a Category 3 storm. It's also my understanding that they're working with the Dutch and the Germans to come up with a plan to build us quickly up to a Category 5 status. Once we do that, then everyone will feel very comfortable about rebuilding in New Orleans as we continue to repopulate.
But rebuilding the flood walls and the levees, that could take years. I've heard some estimates 10, 15 years under a good scenario. Is that fair?
Well, Wolf, basically the Corps is telling me that in order to build them up to 17 feet, which is going to be like 4 feet higher than we had before Katrina hit, they will have completed that by June 1st of next year in 2006. Now, to go to Category 5 standards, that's probably going to take a little longer, but by June of next year, we will be above a Category 3 standard.
Republican Congressman Bill Schuster of Pennsylvania, the chairman of the House Transportation Subcommittee on Economic Development, he said during the course of the hearings, he questioned whether some sections of New Orleans should be rebuilt at all, given the nature of the floods that potentially could develop. What do you say to him?
Well, I think we have to really do a full assessment of New Orleans and determine exactly where the Corps of Engineers is going to rebuild the levees, to what levels, and some of the areas that flooded significantly. What do we need to do to protect them? I think New Orleans will be fully rebuilt. It's just a matter of timing.
How much money are we talking about in the short term, do you think?
As far as the levee systems are concerned, the numbers I've been hearing are around $600 million to maybe $1 billion to quickly rebuild the levee systems to the levels that we're discussing.
And are you talking about eventually rebuilding the 9th Ward, which was so devastated as a result of Katrina, or as some are suggesting, that area is simply not feasible to be rebuilt?
I think it will be rebuilt, but it's probably going to be rebuilt in a different configuration. Whether you have homes that have garages on the bottom and people live up above, whether you have apartments that the first 5 or 6 floors are for parking and then everyone lives above that. But keep in mind, when we talk about the lower 9th Ward, we're also talking about St. Bernard, Plaquemines Parish, where you have huge infrastructure. You have one of the largest oil refineries down there that's about 1 mile long. So we need to keep that going for the nation's best interest. So we will be rebuilding in some form or fashion.
One final question. The Reverend Louis Farrakhan was at a big rally here in Washington over the weekend, and he says he wants to sue the federal government for criminal neglect in dealing with New Orleans, saying that the federal government really didn't care about the black people in New Orleans. What do you say about that?
Well, you know, I have mixed emotions about that. I looked at the response as it relates to the state and the federal government, and I compared that to other communities. And you must admit, and I think everybody in America and around the world admits that the response was very slow. Now, whether it was race, class, or what have you, I'll let other people debate that. I am more focused on what do we need to do to rebuild New Orleans, to make it culturally diverse, to make it a city that was similar to what we had, but better.
But do you associate yourself with Farrakhan and his criminal neglect lawsuit?
Well, that's not my thinking, but I applaud, Minister Farrakhan for raising the issue and making sure that people do not take this lightly, and that we do all the investigations on what happened. We look at the levee systems to see how they were breached, the whole 9 yards, and then let history judge what really happened.
One final question. The police brutality that's been alleged, and you've seen the video. Well, what's your take on what happened?
I think it was appalling. It's something that I'm not going to condone nor accept in New Orleans. Our new police chief, who's acting police chief Warren Riley, took very swift and decisive action, basically suspending those officers and then issuing a summons for them on potentially criminal charges. We're not going to tolerate that. We want everybody to come to New Orleans, as well as the residents, to understand that the police are there to serve.
We're all out of time, but do you have any evidence there were mercy killings at the worst of the moments in the aftermath of Katrina at hospitals in New Orleans?
You know, other than what I've read in the newspaper and seen on various reports such as, your agency, I do not have any direct knowledge of that. There were lots of rumors flying during the event and after the event, so we'll see what the facts come out. And whoever did anything that's criminal in nature, I'm sure they will be prosecuted.
Mayor Nagin, thanks very much for joining us. Welcome to Washington, and good luck to you and everyone in New Orleans and the hurricane-ravaged area. Appreciate you joining us in the Situation Room.
We'll see you for some beignets and Cafe au lait in New Orleans soon.
I'll be there, Cafe Du Monde. Thanks very much, Mayor, for joining us.
Thank you.
Turning back to politics, if President Bush was hoping the conservative revolt against him couldn't get much worse or angrier, you may want to think again. There are new questions and new fuel today for the fire. Our senior analyst Jeff Greenfield is joining us, and he's got that story. Jeff?
Well, Wolf, the ouster of a conservative thinker from a conservative think tank isn't exactly tear out the front page news, but when one of the architects of Ronald Reagan's economic policy is forced out of a post because he wrote a book excoriating this President Bush, that's worth a closer look. The conservative is Bruce Bartlett, longtime champion of supply-side economics. His sin? Authoring a forthcoming book, Imposter, How George W. Bush Bankrupted America and Betrayed the Reagan Legacy. But that's only the latest sign of a spreading disenchantment with Mr. Bush on the right.
I look forward.
The spark that set off the prairie fire, of course, was the president's nomination of White House counsel Harriet Miers to the Supreme Court. Prominent conservative columnists, George Will, Charles Krauthammer, Peggy Noonan, among others, denounced the pick. The National Review, whose founding 50 years ago launched the modern conservative movement, called for the nomination to be withdrawn, and conservative Republican senators were underwhelmed. Why the storm? In part, it's because economic and social conservatives united last year behind the president's narrow re-election. And as much as anything, the social conservatives wanted a clear-cut champion of judicial conservatism to move the court right once Sandra Day O'Connor quit. But the discontent has deeper roots. For years, conservatives have been on low simmer because of President Bush's spending policies. Billions more for an expanded Department of Education. Reagan wanted to abolish it. A prescription drug program in 2003 whose cost is as much as $700 billion, the biggest new entitlement since Medicare. A huge $280 billion highway bill passed this year, packed with billions of dollars in so-called pork, including the infamous Bridge to Nowhere in Alaska, which would connect a small town to a barely populated island. And even on the war in Iraq, conservatives are split. Some champion the ambitious effort to spread democracy. Some argue that's overreaching, a break with more cautious conservative principles. Others support the mission, but deplore its execution. And why does this matter politically? Because over the years, voters have become much more ideological. Back in 1976, Democrat Jimmy Carter got 29% of voters who called themselves conservatives. By 2004, Kerry got only 15% of conservative voters. Self-described liberals have moved sharply to the Democrats, but because there are a whole lot more conservatives in America, this movement has hugely benefited Republicans. Now, so far, this discontent has not spread beyond the more engaged political community. CNN's most recent poll shows Bush gained an 84% approval rating from Republicans, 62% from self-described conservatives. But the worry for Republicans is that this discontent on the right may be the canary in the coal mine, an early warning system of unhappiness, which, if it keeps conservatives home next year, Wolf, might endanger their hold on the Congress. Wolf?
All right, Jeff Greenfield, thank you very much. Jeff Greenfield reporting from New York. Coming up, more on the bruising battle over Harriet Miers. Right now, abortion smack in the middle of the fight. We'll get some expert opinion in today's strategy session. That's coming up next. Plus, the clock's ticking on that CIA leak investigation. We'll look at the potential fallout from the White House. Stick around. You're in The Situation.
Ingeniously designed to help protect the things that need protecting. Energy-absorbing ACE body structure, standard on the all-new Civic. Only from Honda.
They are the kings and queens, the potentates of the road. We recognize them by their restless wing-tipped feet. We support them with new, thicker mattresses and lay the freshest fine white linens at their feet. An offering of respect. Our beds, ourselves, we've changed it all for them. Rest well, my liege. Rest well.
Someone is saying yes instead of no to redeeming credit card miles. Find out who.
I'm on it.
No, blacked out.
Brenda, you know we all say no. But I hear sometimes you say yes.
Go from no to no hassle with Capital One No Hassle Rewards. There are no blackout dates. Check your mailbox for details.
Should have worked at Capital One.
What's in your wallet?
I'm not poor, but I'm sure not rich. I need my Medicare. I figure the less I spend on medical stuff, the more I can spend on my grandkids. And now there are all these new prescription drug plans to choose from. I have no idea if they're for people like me. My neighbor said I could save. My friend said I couldn't. So what's the right answer?
That depends. Call for your 10-minute Aetna answer. Find out what may make sense for you. Call Aetna Medicare at 1-800-2-ANSWER.
My mom's on Medicare, and it's a good thing because she takes a lot of medication. Between the high cholesterol and everything else, her costs keep going up. She takes some generic drugs, some brand, and they get more and more expensive. Would it make sense for us to get one of those new Medicare prescription drug plans? And if so, would her drugs be covered? Even her brand drugs?
Possibly. Call for your 5-minute Aetna answer and we can tell you. Call Aetna Medicare at 1-800-2-ANSWER. We want you to know. Aetna Medicare.
Welcome back. Joining us now in the Situation Room, radio talk show host and author of the new book, How the Republicans Stole Christmas, Bill Press, and Republican strategist Greg Mueller. Our strategy session begins. Harry Reid, the Democratic leader in the Senate, is quoted as saying this: anything dealing with intelligence, no matter how big or how small, Cheney is involved in. This is his portfolio, and he guards it very well, referring to the leak investigation. The leak investigation seems to be coming to a head in the next few days, we're told. What do you sense?
It looks like it, and the question in Washington, paraphrasing Howard Baker, I think today, is what did the vice president know and when did he know it? I don't think it's surprising, Wolf, that the focus is on Cheney now because, number one, I think it's implausible that Libby acts without Cheney knowing what he's doing. And
Scooter Libby's his chief of staff.
Libby's chief of staff. And secondly, we know from the Woodward book and Judy Miller's testimony that the vice president was really on this case. He personally went out to the CIA. He asked them to look into this idea that Saddam was buying nuclear material from Niger. That ended up in Wilson going down there, then the president's speech, and then Wilson's op-ed piece, and then perhaps this deliberate leak from the White House to discredit Wilson. So Cheney might have been the one who set the whole thing off.
You know, when I read Judy Miller's first-person account of what she testified, what she said before the grand jury in Sunday's New York Times, what really struck me, and I'm sure many of our viewers out there, was the animosity that existed between the CIA and the vice president's office. And that came through in the conversations that Scooter Libby had with Judith Miller. And that would seem to explain some of the bitterness that developed.
Yeah, I think that's right, Wolf. I think to a sense, look, I think that there's some in the White House that believe the CIA was acting politically, that Valerie Plame had a husband, they had a left-wing agenda to undermine the war, and I think the vice president was very involved in that. This was part of his role. The idea of the vice president talking with the CIA to determine whether or not we're going to go to war on what evidence is something not unnatural. What is unnatural...
But the CIA supported all the intelligence that created, that justified the war, the evidence that said there were stockpiles of weapons of mass destruction.
Right, well, the CIA's kind of been back and forth on both sides of the aisle over time here, and I think one of the things that Plame tried to do, I think very politically, tried to undermine by sending her husband. They had a preconceived notion over there, and actually, if you read what he came back with, he actually, according to Pat Roberts, the Senate Intelligence Committee chairman, actually validated more of what Cheney was saying. But, well, the point is, the idea that Vice President Cheney is involved in media strategy, Bill knows. That's not even going to make it on his radio show.
No. Look, first of all, forget blaming Valerie Plame or Joe Wilson anymore. We've moved way beyond that. We're talking about serious possible indictments of Karl Rove and Scooter Libby and maybe something toward the Vice President of the United States. Wolf, it was unusual for the Vice President to go several times personally to CIA headquarters, and what it appears to be is that this didn't stand alone. This was part of the effort directed from the White House to manipulate the intelligence and to force the CIA to come up with the intelligence to support the war. And it's coming back to haunt them.
I don't know if there's any evidence of that, and if Bill's right, that would be wrong. But I think it's the role of the vice president in this war, before you're going to declare war and go to war, to have all the information possible. He should be meeting with the CIA.
All those reports that came out on the weapons of mass destruction, whether the congressional reports or the other independent reports, they all said the same thing. They couldn't find any such evidence that they were deliberately going to, that Cheney or anybody else in the executive branch was influencing career professionals.
But clearly there's also evidence that the CIA was saying, we're not sure they've got those weapons of mass destruction. We're not sure they're reconstituting their nuclear weapons. And Cheney kept pushing them, saying, come back with more evidence. We need more evidence. They'd already decided to go to war. They were looking to make the case.
The Senate Intelligence Committee chairman says that Wilson's report, when you read it over its dotted I's and crossed T, actually validates Cheney's point. So I think we have to really look at the whole.
Republican Pat Roberts has reason to say that.
Let's move on and talk about the split among your fellow conservatives when it comes to Harriet Miers and her nomination. David Keene of the American Conservative Union, a man you know very well, quoted in The Hill, the newspaper on Capitol Hill. From now on, this administration will find it difficult to muster support on the right without explaining why it should be forthcoming. The days of the blank check have ended because no thinking conservative really wants to be part of a team that requires marching in lockstep without question or a thought. Very strong words from David Keene.
Very strong words, Wolf, and he's not the only one. There's no question. Every president goes through this battle with their base, especially two-term presidents. What's going to matter now is where does the president go from here? He's got issues. Harriet Miers is kind of caught in that crossfire. She's, as Jeff Greenfield reported, kind of the jump-off point in many ways. They're upset about spending issues. The president's starting to work on that. Mike Pence is working on the House. We've got to get back to conservative issues. That's what win elections. And I don't think we're going to see much competition with the Democrats when we get to issues, because They just don't seem to have an agenda. They want to whine and complain.
I'm not really qualified to speak to the conservative philosophy, but from people that I've talked to, I think it's too late to repair the damage. Jeff Greenfield was right. It started with the big spending. You can't get that back. Then the big deficits. You can't get that back. And as Bruce Bartlett said in his column today, the Harriet Miers nomination was the straw that broke the camel's back. I think that not all of them, but a good number of leading conservatives have just lost faith and trust in this presidency.
We got to leave it there, unfortunately,
Okay,
but we'll continue this conversation, guys. Thanks
right.
very much. When we come back, Congress comes up with an idea to help pay for Hurricane Katrina, an idea you will probably like. That story is coming up in our political radar. Plus, she's retiring after more than 2 decades on the U.S. Supreme Court. So what will Sandra Day O'Connor do next? We'll tell you when we return.
Strategy Session is sponsored by Warner Independent Pictures. Good night and good luck.
Who are the people? Are they elected? Are they appointed? Is it you?
In theaters now.
Any man who protects communists is not fit to wear that uniform.
In a nation terrorized by its own government.
The next show is going to be about Senator McCarthy.
6 extraordinary Americans.
Somebody's going to go down.
Dared to tell the truth.
Good evening.
Rolling Stone calls it an electrifying movie event and one of the year's best. A mesmerizing film from start to finish. The New York Times rave. See it now.
We cannot defend freedom abroad by deserting it at home. Good night and good luck.
Rated PG. Now playing select cities.
At BASF, we don't make the sunscreen, we make it stronger. We don't make the helmet, we make it tougher. We don't make the bridge, we make it more durable. We don't make the car, we make it more colorful. We don't make a lot of the products you buy, we make a lot of the products you buy better. BASF, the chemical company.
Attention Medicare seniors. Is the cost of your breathing medication a burden? We can help. Call Med4Home now at 1-800-403-3528. Is opening multiple vials confusing? With medications such as Duoneb and Zopanex, you can simplify your breathing treatments. Med4Home delivers right to your door and handles all the Medicare paperwork for you. So give us a call at 1-800-403-3528. We're here to help you.
Let's check you out. There it is again!
Want to refinance your mortgage and cash out equity? Get a $395 flat fee home loan from Ditech.com.
Lost another one to Ditech.
Call 1-800-71-FIXED.
For years, E-Trade stood outside, throwing stones at the financial establishment. Now that we've matured and offer everything from trading to banking, we're doing it from inside. Be extraordinary at eTrade.com.
The culture wars tops our political radar this Tuesday. A former Food and Drug Administration official levels a serious allegation about the agency's refusal to approve over-the-counter sales of a morning-after contraception pill. Susan Wood says the decision came from above, suggesting the FDA was not acting independently on scientific information, but based on political directives. Religious conservatives oppose the pill, arguing it would promote promiscuity, particularly in young people. Wood resigned from the FDA over the decision on the morning after pill known as Plan B. On Capitol Hill, senators have overwhelmingly voted to reject the $3,100 annual cost of living increase in their paychecks. Lawmakers acknowledge it's a symbolic move meant to show they're willing to save the taxpayers' money, given the huge expense of rebuilding after Hurricane Katrina. The measure's fate in the House of Representatives is uncertain. Bill Clinton is making a rare appearance in a political ad since his days as president. The spot promotes Democrat John Corzine's campaign for New Jersey governor, calling him the most qualified candidate for governor he's ever seen. Recent polls suggest Corzine's race against Republican Doug Forster is the closest it's ever been. Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton was on the receiving end of a fundraising letter from, of all people, her Republican opponent, Jeanine Pirro. In an emotionally embarrassing gaffe, the New York Times reports the appeal addressed to Mrs. Clinton said, and I'm quoting now, "In this difficult campaign, I need people like you who I can trust." And she hasn't been able to retire just yet, but Justice Sandra Day O'Connor has a new job of sorts Today, she was named Grand Marshal of the 117th Tournament of Roses Parade. Connor says she can't think of a more exciting way to begin the next chapter of her life, and we wish her only the very, very best. Our Zane Vergy standing by in the CNN Center in Atlanta with a closer look at some other stories making news. We wish you only the very best, Zane, as well.
Thanks, Wolf. Call it Hurricane Wilma now. The tropical storm intensified today. Now, it's not really clear where the storm is headed, but it may hit southern Florida on Saturday. Forecasters think that Wilma will spare New Orleans and Mississippi, but it's already hit parts of Central America with 10 inches of rain. Wilma's the year's 12th hurricane, trying to set a record, or tying, a record set in 1969. A shower of welcome this morning for the first private plane in more than 4 years to land at Washington's Reagan National Airport. General aviation was banned from Reagan National after the September 11th attacks. The planes were considered a threat to government buildings and to landmarks. The flights are still subject to stringent restrictions. The largest single lottery prize in history could be won tomorrow. Now, the jackpot in the Powerball lottery has reached $340 million. But the odds against winning are even higher, 147,107,962 to 1. 27 states, the U.S. Virgin Islands and Washington, D.C. take part in Powerball. And Jack, I'm just wondering, if you won that, what would you do with that money?
Well, I'm not sure. I don't play the lottery, so I won't win it. But the thing that always astounds me is people who say, well, I'm not going to give up my job. I'm still going to work. I'd be out of here so fast.
Lying.
Huh? Yeah. I mean, I would be gone yesterday from here.
I would be miserable then, Jack.
Well, I'd take you with me,
I have to
Zane.
promote you now, Jack. Up next in the Situation Room, our question this hour: what would it mean for President Bush if the vice president is involved in the CIA leak? Jack Cafferty will join us next with your comments.
Congress chartered Freddie Mac 35 years ago to make mortgage money available so lenders can make more home loans. Our mission? Help keep mortgage rates stable and low. It's working. Freddie Mac has helped over 44 million families own their own home. It's the most important investment millions of Americans ever make. Some people call it a nest egg. Most people just call it home. Freddie Mac. We make home possible.
They say he's a newsman on a mission. He gives both sides a fair shot. These days, who can you trust? Lou Dobbs Tonight. CNN Tonight, 6 Eastern.
No matter where you are or where you want to go in Oregon or anywhere in the USA, you deserve a simple health care plan that's there when you need it. You deserve Health Net Options Plus, featuring comprehensive coverage, including alternative care options. Choose any Medicare physician across the nation without a referral for only $53 a month. It really is that simple. Call now at 1-800-822-7698 and discover the flexibility of Health Net Options Plus. 1-800-822-7698.
What if everyone had the same extraordinary service as Northwest Community Credit Union? Northwest Community Credit Union, where you're more than welcome, and where the rates are as extraordinary as the service.
Shopping for a new home? Did you know that in the time it takes you to drive to just one house, you could visit 100 without leaving your home? Coldwell Banker Barbara Sue Seal Properties introduces a better way to shop. Find your new home on TV or online, anytime. Hundreds and hundreds of dream homes are now just a click away. On Channel 15 or at cbseal.com. Coldwell Banker Barbara Sue Seal Properties. Discover the joy of home shopping from home.
Game show host, avid fisherman, aspiring rap star. Who is Chuck Woolery? His new co-host Shandy Finnessy wanted to know.
Tell me something I don't know about you.
My biggest fear is being attacked by a large calico cat named Skippy.
Get to know the real Woolery.
My life is an open book.
Lingo, weeknights at 7 on GSN.
The news. Trust CNN.
is essential.
We're standing by for a news conference. The governor of Maryland, Robert Ehrlich, expected shortly to be making a statement on that what's being described as a terror threat to the Baltimore harbor. As one of those tunnels one of the tunnels underneath the harbor was shut down earlier today. Another one was partially shut down. We're going to hear what the governor of Maryland has to say about all of this. We'll bring that to you once it starts. In the meantime, let's go up to New York. Jack Cafferty has been reading your email. He's standing by with us once again. Hi, Jack.
Thanks, Wolf. Hi. The fact that the special prosecutor in the CIA leak case has talked to a number of Vice President Dick Cheney's aides from Scooter Libby on down begs the question of how high up the investigation could go. One former Cheney aide told the Washington Post today it's implausible that his boss, the vice president, was involved in the leak case because he rarely dealt with press strategy. The question this hour, though, is what would it mean for President Bush if the vice president's involved in the CIA leak? Rugen in Oakland, California, business as usual. I'm sure nearly every presidential administration in U.S. history has used lies and misdirection to execute policy. It's just that Bush's incompetence lies in his inability to keep those mechanics out of the public eye. Tom in Alma, West Virginia, the real problem for the president comes if he or Vice President Cheney were involved in discussions about Wilson or his wife. This would hurt him with his base, not to mention conspiracy charges. Neither testified under oath, but the court of American opinion does not easily forgive a direct lie. Tracy in Washington writes it would mean that President Bush would get out his pardon pen in a hurry. I hope the American people wouldn't tolerate that tactic when the center of the case is a security breach during a time of war, but I wouldn't be surprised if he tried it. Matt in Amherst, New Hampshire, it would be meaningless. Half the country has proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that nothing matters. And Trevor in Canton, Ohio, I'm sure that if Vice President Cheney was involved in the CIA leak, it would mean a promotion of Harriet Miers to the nomination for vice president. Poor old Harriet. She gets beat around here every day for something.
And she's got hearings coming up in a few weeks. Jack, thanks very much.
Thanks, Wolf.
What are the bloggers saying about the leak investigation and whether the vice president's office is in the special prosecutor's sights? Our internet reporter, Jackie Schechner, takes us inside the blog. She's joining us live. Jackie?
Well, Wolf, are indictments inevitable? Nobody knows. Everybody's speculating, and everybody's trying to find a way to help them figure it out. One site that we found today, tradesports.com. This is interesting. This is an online futures trading website. Why do we care about a site like this? Well, besides the fact that they've been incredibly accurate, I'll tell you about that in just a second, they very much follow the news trends. You can see the line here on Scooter Libby in terms of futures trading. The idea is, what is the probability that Scooter Libby and Karl Rove will be indicted by the end of the year? You got Scooter Libby right now at 60 and Karl Rove at 46. This website is interesting because they have predicted accurately 33 of the last 34 Senate races. They didn't get the Michael Jackson verdict correct, but they did predict the last Pope. And when Howard Dean made his infamous scream in Iowa, within 5 minutes, his tradings futures plummeted, which basically predicted the future or lack thereof of his Democratic nomination. But as for the bloggers, really, they are paring it down to the bare bones facts right now. These are liberal bloggers honing in. Steve Clemens at the Washington Note, he's a longtime policy practitioner in Washington. And essentially, he says, what do we know? Scooter Libby discussed a CIA agent with members of the press. We know that as a fact. Karl Rove doing the same thing coming from Hillzoy at Obsidian Wings. Basically, Scooter Libby, Karl Rove, willing to out a CIA agent for purely political reasons. Why does this matter? A poignant post over at Fire Dog Lake. Take a look at the CIA memorial. Essentially, every star on that memorial is a fallen CIA officer. And Wolf, how dare anyone say this case doesn't matter? We'll send it back to you.
All right. Thanks very much, Jackie. We'll get back to you as well. Still ahead, something that may give Hillary Rodham Clinton's supporters hope that she could be the first woman president in the United States. But do politics and primetime TV really mix? We'll have the controversy over a new hit show, Commander-in-Chief. And later, we'll set the scene for a courtroom drama in Iraq, the trial of Saddam Hussein. We'll examine the outcome of war crimes charges throughout history. We'll be right back.
Closed captioning hours on CNN, sponsored in part by New Gold Bond Ultimate Healing Lotion's 24-hour moisturizing protection.
I'm a hairstylist, and washing hair all day really breaks my hands.
Gold Bond Ultimate Healing Lotion. 7 intensive moisturizers and 3 vitamins.
Gold Bond Ultimate Healing. This stuff really works.
Eat steak, eat a big old steer. Eat steak, do we have one deer? Beef, it's a mighty good food. It's a grade A meal and I'm in the mood. Eat steak, eat a big old steak.
What if everyone just settled for average? What if nobody raised the bar? What if everyone decided to let someone else figure it out? By investing in Russia's oil and natural gas reserves, the world's second largest, ConocoPhillips is helping ensure global energy production for decades to come. Turning what ifs into what's next is just another way we elevate.
Today, Best Buy gives you the power to control KG with one finger. Watch.
Games, the stuff, it all comes together right here. Best Buy, thousands of possibilities. Get yours.
People should be treated fairly. That's why eLoan has fought for the strictest privacy laws in the industry. Check out our current monthly mortgage options. Those are some of the revolutionary ways we're changing the lending industry. eLoan, radically simple.
Dad? I need $80.
$80?
Well, there's these jeans.
Because you don't have enough jeans.
Well, they're not just any jeans.
But you have to have them.
Yeah,
Do your friends have them?
everybody has them.
Are they designer jeans?
Yeah.
Active traders are always on, searching, prodding, questioning to find the next great investment idea.
So who's the designer?
Like you care.
No, I care.
Gorelli.
That's why active traders belong to Ameritrade Apex. We give you the tools to spot, analyze, and seize the market's many possibilities. Go to Ameritrade.com/getapex or call 888-506-9400. Join now and get one free trade for every 5 trades. Plus qualify for Apex and get $50.
Dad.
Oh.
Thanks. There's these really cool shoes. Just kidding.
Many Americans look forward to Tuesday nights to get a fictional taste of life in the White House with a woman in charge. And some are eager to connect the dots between the fictional commander-in-chief and a certain real-world contender.
The United States. That I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
The votes, or rather viewers, have been tallied. And America's first woman president is a winner.
President?
Female president. Can't you smell the history?
General, if you would please stay.
Commander-in-Chief is the only new TV series to break into the ratings top 10. And new numbers from Nielsen show it's the #1 program among women.
I really must insist that you strongly
Jim,
consider...
you're not in a position to insist how I take my coffee.
Although she's supposed to be an independent, President Mackenzie Allen's popularity may be giving hope to Democrats eager to see another Clinton in the White House, or the jitters to Republicans who fear the show is a not-so-veiled Hillary for president promotion. And now, it turns out the political drama has a real-life connection to Senator Clinton. A writer on the show, Steve Cohen, once worked as a communications aide for Mrs. Clinton. And series consultant Capricia Marshall was a social secretary in the Clinton White House.
Thank you very much.
It's not the first time political handlers have gone Hollywood. The granddaddy of presidential TV dramas, West Wing, debuted with an impressive cast of consultants who once worked for actual politicians, most notably former Clinton press secretary Dee Dee Myers.
We did not lose Texas because of the hat joke.
The West Wing went on the air with an unabashedly Democratic president shortly before the Democrats lost the real West Wing to George W. Bush.
Thank you all.
A reminder that primetime TV isn't necessarily a good indicator of where American politics may be heading. A good reminder indeed. It's 5 p.m. here in Washington, and you're in the Situation Room where we're standing by for a news conference on a developing story. Maryland's governor expected to speak momentarily about the terror threat that shut down the heavily traveled Harbor Tunnel under Baltimore. Investigators are looking for 6 people. We expect new information this hour. And it's also 5 p.m. in Southwest Florida. potentially in the path of Wilma. It's now a hurricane and expected to gain strength in the coming days. We'll have a new forecast for you that's just out this hour from the National Hurricane Center. And it's already midnight in Baghdad, where in just a few hours, Saddam Hussein will go on trial for the massacre of his own countrymen, joining a long list of notorious names who face similar tribunals. I'm Wolf Blitzer. You're in the Situation Room. And we are standing by for a news conference by the Maryland Governor Robert Ehrlich on the threat that closed the Baltimore Harbor Tunnel earlier today. We'll bring you that as soon as it happens. First, though, our Homeland Security correspondent Gene Meserve is standing by with the latest details. Gene, what do you know?
Wolf, sources now telling CNN that a couple of people are being questioned in the Baltimore area in connection with the alleged plot. Though none are under arrest, sources say some may ultimately be detained for immigration problems. Sources say the purported plot involved the shipment of explosives into the port of Baltimore disguised as cocoa. They would then be driven into one of the city's tunnels and detonated. Officials say fewer than 10 people identified as Egyptians were allegedly involved.
All right, Gene, hold on 1 second. We're going to pick you up in a moment. But Robert Ehrlich, the governor of Maryland, is speaking out.
An investigation of a possible attack against Baltimore's tunnels. Today, that investigation led to an operation. The operation has included a number of interviews and other activities. At 11:30 this morning, with an abundance of caution and at the recommendation of the FBI, the Maryland Transportation Authority police closed the Baltimore Harbor Tunnel and restricted access to the Baltimore-Fort McHenry Tunnel. Today's operation was executed successfully. State, city, and county police have trained for this operation for years. It was seamless. Our number one priority in situations such as this is always public safety. Job one for government at all levels. I want to thank our partners, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Maryland Transportation Authority Police, the Maryland State Police, the Baltimore City Police, and the Baltimore County Police. This truly was a joint effort at all three levels of government and, as I just said, multi-jurisdictions within the Baltimore metropolitan area, both Baltimore County and Baltimore City, well represented at every step along the road. We were prepared and will certainly have a lot more to say. We will be available to answer your questions, but at this time I want you to hear from Chief McElhenney. Gary?
This was a massive operation, an undertaking by the Maryland Transportation Authority, along with our partners on a state, local, and federal level. This is exactly what we've trained for. It's what we've been asked to do. The men and women of this agency and the other agencies involved performed above and beyond the call today. Once the order was given by myself from the command center, we were able to close one tunnel and limit access to the other tunnel and remove all vehicles from that tunnel in slightly less than 2 minutes. The operation today involved 80 police officers from the Baltimore City Police Department, the Baltimore County Police Department, as well as the Maryland Transportation Authority and Maryland State Police. Like I said, this is what we trained for. This is what we were asked to do today. And without hesitation, I gave the order, and the men and women of this agency executed that order.
Thank you. Kevin?
Thank you, Governor. Chief, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, along with the Department of Homeland Security, shared information with state, federal, and local counterparts regarding a threat of undetermined credibility to an unspecified tunnel in the Baltimore area. The information was somewhat specific as to date and time, and this required appropriate investigation and follow-up to be conducted. At this point, no evidence collected to date has corroborated the threat as it's going on. However, the investigation is still ongoing, and that being said, the FBI and the Joint Terrorism Task Force, along with our other state and local partners, fully support the actions that have to be taken to protect the citizens of Maryland. Baltimore's Joint Federal Bureau of Investigation's Joint Terrorism Task Force consists of members from the federal government, other federal agencies, state and local law enforcement officers. This investigation will continue, and we will remain in close touch with all state and local elected officials and other law enforcement officers to keep them apprised of appropriate information. Thank you.
And then people have been taken in for questioning, and any arrests been made.
Okay. I can't say at this point whether or not any arrests have been made. Interviews have been conducted today. Interviews are ongoing at this time. The interviews are more along the lines to determine whether or not the threat is credible. The information that we have is that we need to follow up with certain individuals in an effort to determine the credibility of the information.
There have been reports of 4 individuals, Egyptian in origin.
No, I'm not going to comment on the specifics of the investigation.
There have been reports that an individual who worked at the Cocoa Market in Baltimore was taken into custody. He is of Egyptian origin, and as far as we know, he was taken into custody not in Baltimore, but in some foreign country. Any comment on that?
I'm not going to comment again as to specifics of the investigation, other than to say it's ongoing and that there are interviews currently ongoing at this point.
Did you know that this threat lacked credibility before today? Was the state fully informed about what the FBI knows?
The state, all of our partners in the Joint Terrorism Task Force, and in this case, as the governor mentioned and as Chief McElhaney mentioned, that would include Transportation Authority Police, the state police, the Baltimore City and Baltimore County Police Departments. Ranking echelon members of those departments have been in our command post since the first day this took place, since the first day we received the threat information. It's unfortunate in the day and age in which we live that we have to follow every single one of these threats. We do that. The closure of the tunnel was just one specific aspect. There was an awful lot of other things ongoing at the time and throughout the last week or so to try to follow up and ascertain the credibility. And we have to continue to do that in order to assure the safety of the citizens of Maryland.
So, Kevin, what else was happening, Kevin? What else was happening besides for the tunnel closure today? What else can you tell us the FBI was doing?
In this case, interviews, as I've mentioned. A number of interviews have taken place of individuals in the city.
City officials
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Were you looking at the tunnel itself, specific vehicles going through the tunnel? Some of the circumstances?
Well, as I said, the threat itself was nonspecific to an unspecified tunnel in the Baltimore area. It was not specific as to types of vehicles or anything else. So what we were attempting to do at that point is just follow up in an abundance of caution to try to ascertain additional credibility to the threat if that did exist.
Was city officials complained of hearing about this operation in the news meeting? Is that the way this was supposed to work? Was there a disconnect there at all?
I can't comment to that. Gary, would you, other than the fact to say that all the agencies we mentioned heretofore have been very much involved in the command post in the planning issues. Gary?
Yesterday at approximately 4 p.m. we opened up a tactical operations center here in our headquarters building. That center has been manned ever since throughout the night by members of the Transportation Authority, Maryland State Police, Baltimore City Police, Baltimore County Police. All of the partners in this investigation have been aware of everything we were doing. I personally conducted a briefing this morning at 8 a.m. and laid out our plans that were going to occur later in the day. And all those personnel were present, including the possibility of the tunnels closing and what preparations we had made throughout the night for that event.
Was the threat specific to today, and that's why you closed the tunnel today? This has been a 2-week investigation. Why not close the tunnels sooner?
The decision to close the tunnels today was based on the totality of the investigation. It was based on everything that the FBI was doing today, as well as information that we had already received.
But the threat was not specific to today. This person wasn't going to threaten to blow up the tunnel or whatever today. You would take whatever action.
I don't think we're commenting on the exact...
Can't even comment on the premise of your question.
Yeah.
All right, Governor, you mentioned several agencies. You thanked the FBI and several Maryland state agencies, but you didn't mention the Department of Homeland Security.
Well, yeah, actually, Dennis, in fact, I've talked to the director today. We have been in contact. Yes, I did. And Dennis Schrader, my director of Homeland Security, is here as well. He will be, Dennis, you may come on up here. We have been in constant contact with both the feds and obviously through Dennis's work on an hourly basis. Dennis, you may want to comment on that as well.
Yes, sir, Governor. This is an unprecedented opportunity for us to work together with both the FBI and DHS. We're constantly comparing information, coordinating back and forth, and that's what went on today.
There's no evidence of a specific plot, apparently, I think you've said. Are any of the people whose names you've received or who you've interviewed of interest in other ways?
I'm not going to, other than the fact that we have conducted interviews, it'd be inappropriate for me to comment on that as far as how the investigation goes and what interest they may play.
Were the interviews then tied to the tunnels closing? Is there a connection there?
Again, we were conducting interviews today, but I'm not going to comment as to protocols and what we've done and what took place today. I think the tunnel closure, again, as was said, was in an abundance of caution. It's something that that felt was necessary at the time, and the appropriate authorities who are charged with protection of our citizenry made that choice, and we fully support them.
Governor, a lot of people are worried about the tunnel tonight and the safety of the tunnel. Question, you're speaking 4 hours after the tunnel reopened. Why wait this long to speak to the people of Maryland when the TV newscasts are on?
Actually, I've been talking to the press all day. So.
Can you confirm how many people you have in custody and what their nationalities are?
No, I'm not. I cannot comment as to anyone being taken into custody or any particular nationalities at this point.
Governor, is this going to be the new normal? Is this going to be the new normal of state and local officials sort of taking the charge for these investigations as opposed to the federal?
It is a classic partnership. And to some extent on the intelligence end, we're the junior partners. And to some extent on the operational end, the federal government's the junior partner. But when you combine the two ends of every operation, that's really what it boils down to. The intelligence occurs, the intelligence passes through channels, the intelligence needs to be interpreted, it is interpreted. And then we're contacted, and on the operational end, from personnel to assets, obviously state and local government play an integral part, as you saw play out here today.
The governor of Maryland, Robert Ehrlich, joined by officials from the Maryland Transportation Police Department as well as the FBI, explaining what's going on as a result of a terror threat that has been that continues to be investigated right now. Gene Meserve, our Homeland Security correspondent, has been listening to this, watching it together with us. And very interestingly, as you reported, Gene, a number of interviews, the FBI using that word pointedly, a number of interviews underway right now.
That's right. Number of interviews, but as far as we have been told, no arrests at this point. Possibility there will be detentions because of immigration problems on the part of some of these individuals. As is somewhat to be expected, we heard less on the record from these officials than we've heard on background from some of our sources. What they have told us is that the purported plot involved the shipment of explosives disguised as cocoa into Baltimore. They would then be driven into one of the tunnels, unspecified as to which one. Sources have told us that fewer than 10 people identified as Egyptians were purportedly involved in this. The intelligence, as you heard the officials say, is uncorroborated. Its credibility has not at this time been established. And as you also heard in this press conference, officials saying that they are all singing off the same sheet of music. They want this to be perceived very differently that the transit threat in New York City was perceived almost 2 weeks ago.
All right, Gene, thank you very much. I'll continue to monitor this story, and to our viewers, please stay with CNN day and night for the most reliable news about your security. Let's go up to New York. Jack Cafferty standing by there. Hi, Jack.
Thanks. Hi, Wolf. It's been over 4 years now since the terrorists struck the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, and that plane went down with all those people on board in Pennsylvania. And life in this country hasn't been quite the same since that fateful day. We don't have government officials telling us to go out and buy plastic sheeting and duct tape and seal up our homes. And those color-coded alerts don't go up and down like yo-yos the way they did in the weeks and months right after the terrorist attack. But we still have our moments when we're put on alert, when we're frightened, when we're afraid of thinking the unthinkable. A couple of weeks ago, New York City crawling with cops, particularly underground, as there was a perceived threat to the subway system, the largest mass transit system in the nation. This city had been hit before. The people here, understandably, were on edge for a couple of days. Today, the harbor tunnel closing down in Baltimore. I'm sure the people in Baltimore, Maryland won't sleep quite as soundly tonight as they did maybe last night. The question this hour is this: do you pay less attention to security threats now than you did right after September 11th? Cafferty File, one word, CNN.com. Wolf?
All right, Jack, thanks very much. Up next, the storm called Wilma. It's now a hurricane. And there's a new forecast that just has come out from the National Hurricane Center that has Florida potentially in its path. We'll tell you what's going on. Plus, the trial of Saddam Hussein about to begin. We'll show you what everyday Iraqis are saying about this historic event. You're in the Situation Room.
The HP Blade System server powered by Intel Xeon processors. Consolidation made easy.
The nation's top critics are raving about Good Night and Good Luck. Rolling Stone calls it an electrifying movie event. The New York Times says, see it now. And Newsweek declares one of the best movies of the year.
Good night and good luck.
Rated PG. Now playing select cities.
Okay, Mr. Jones. I'll just add up the closing costs on your new home loan, and you'll be all done.
Thinking about purchasing a new home? Don't get stuck paying a lot of fees. Get a flat fee home loan. The total lender fee is just $395. Log on or call 1-800-71-FIXED.
Ford product engineers work hard. Anybody can see that. Since they need to be with the cars, we took out their desk phones and extended the workplace with Sprint Business. It's helping us shorten the time from concept to showroom, and it's easy to reach them. Dan?
Dan's gonna have to call you back.
By saying yes to working from anywhere, we're building more new products faster.
With Sprint Business, you can make just about any place a workplace. Yes, you can.
2 journalists, 2 hours, 2 ways to see the story. Every night at 10, Newsnight. Aaron Brown, Anderson Cooper, CNN Tonight, 10 Eastern.
Let Empire Glass replace your cracked windshield, and we'll give you 24 free dinners to Sherry's Restaurants, where you'll enjoy great food and delicious pies all day, every day. And we offer free mobile service to your home or office. So for the highest quality windshields and 24 free dinners to Sherry's, call Empire Glass today at 503-251-9881. And remember, when you think glass, think Empire.
Welcome to Mystery Mansion.
It's time to go upstairs.
Where every Friday night.
Don't even breathe.
Will be a scream. Mystery Movies. Friday nights, 9, 8 Central on I.
AC 360, CNN Tonight, 7 Eastern.
Welcome back to the Situation Room. In Central America and even in Florida, it's not welcome news. A weather system named Wilma is now a hurricane churning in the Caribbean. It's the 12th hurricane of this season and threatening parts of Cuba, Honduras, even Florida. Let's get the latest stuff from our meteorologist, Jackie Jarris. She's joining us from the CNN Hurricane Headquarters. What is the latest forecast, Jackie?
Well, the forecast is bringing it through the Yucatan Channel and then taking a sharp right-hand turn nearing the Florida Peninsula. Hurricane watches have just been posted now as at the top of the hour for parts of the Yucatan Peninsula, including Cozumel, and then much of western Cuba, including the Isle of Youth. That means hurricane conditions are expected or possible within 36 hours. The storm has been holding steady with our wind speed for the last 3+ hours at 80 miles per hour. That keeps it at a Category 1. However, hurricane hunters have just flown into the plane and recorded that the pressure has dropped. That is a sign that the system is continuing to intensify, and now we believe it could be as strong as a Category 4 as it makes its way near Mexico. There you can see the projected path, 135 miles per hour possibly by Thursday afternoon. We should see some weakening with the storm, but unfortunately it's going to be moving very quickly as it starts to take its turn off to the north and the east. So it might not weaken much more than bringing it down to a 3. So we may be facing now a major hurricane making landfall somewhere across South Florida, Tampa southward, maybe into the Florida Keys. But we still have to keep in mind that there is a good margin of error. So I want you to take a look at some of the projected possible tracks. If it gets closer to Mexico, it could go into the northeastern Gulf. If it gets closer to Cuba, we'll be watching areas like the Florida Keys.
And we're thinking Friday, Saturday, Sunday, around that time it might make a landfall?
Yeah, Saturday looks like the best day right now.
All right, we'll watch it. Jackie, thank you very much. Jackie Jarris reporting. Zane Vergie is joining us now from the CNN Center in Atlanta with a closer look at some other stories making news. Zane?
Wolf Homeland Security Secretary Michael Chertoff says tighter security alone won't stop illegal immigration. He says the nation needs to give migrant workers a legal way to gain employment. Chertoff testified before Congress in support of a guest worker program proposed by President Bush. In Southern California, they're cleaning up after mudslides. The deluge of mud followed severe thunderstorms and hail the size of walnuts. More than 100,000 people lost power, and a truck driver was killed when his tanker crashed and caught fire. It was just one of the scores of accidents caused by the storm. The head of a lab caught up in a major scandal over sports and steroids is facing time behind bars. Victor Conti has been sentenced to 4 months in prison, followed by 4 months of home confinement and 2 years of court supervision. Conti pled guilty to distributing steroids. He runs the Bay Area laboratory cooperative known as Balco. Retiring Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor has been named as the Grand Marshal of the 2006 Tournament of Roses Parade. Parade organizers called O'Connor a shining example of what intelligence and determination can bring. She'd also get to toss the coin at the start of the Rose Bowl. O'Connor plans to leave the High Court when a successor is confirmed. Wolf?
Zane, thank you very much. Coming up here in the Situation Room, the hunt for the world's most wanted terrorist. We'll get an update on the search for Osama bin Laden. Afghanistan's Foreign Minister Abdullah Abdullah, he is here in the Situation Room. He's been meeting with top U.S. officials. We'll speak with him live. Plus, a real-life courtroom drama about to get underway. We'll show you what to expect when the trial of Saddam Hussein begins in Baghdad. We'll be right back.
Lots of Wi-Fi users work in coffee shops, which aren't always the best places to work. Wouldn't it be great to work wherever you wanted instead of only in hotspots? Now you can with Verizon Wireless Broadband Access. Wi-Fi only works in limited locations, while Broadband Access is the nation's largest high-speed wireless broadband network and is expanding coast to coast. Now get unlimited access at a great price, so you won't get stuck in a not-so-hot spot. Verizon Wireless, we never stop working for you.
Sure, we had a good time pillaging. But with so many people switching to Capital One, we've had to find new jobs.
Maybe a 7.5.
It's been especially tough on Ivan the Great.
For low rates and great rewards, switch to Capital One. Check your mailbox.
What's in your wallet? What are you looking at?
Honey, does this make me look fat?
You betcha. In the time it takes to pull out the sleeper sofa, you could save hundreds on car insurance. Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
We're gonna make accounts payable exciting again. That's what we need to do, people.
In the time it takes to clean out your desk, you could save hundreds on car insurance. Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
When you realize how often water touches your family's life, you discover just how important healthy, great-tasting water is. Only Pure has a 3-stage filter. Stage 1 filters sediment. Stage 2 reduces contaminants. And Stage 3 filters over minerals. Pure is available in faucet mounts and pitchers. No one delivers great-tasting water quite like Pure.
been 4 years now since President Bush first declared he wanted Osama bin Laden captured, dead or alive. But the al-Qaeda leader remains America's most wanted fugitive, a serious disappointment for the Bush administration and its allies in the post-9/11 war on terror. Joining us now here in the Situation Room, the Foreign Minister of Afghanistan, Abdullah. Mr. Foreign Minister, welcome to Washington. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Are there still al-Qaeda training camps in Afghanistan?
Inside Afghanistan, no.
There are no operations underway, no al-Qaeda operations, no safe houses, if you will?
No al-Qaeda bases inside Afghanistan, while some remnants of Taliban and al-Qaeda from time to time, they launch operations inside Afghanistan. They cross the border. Inside Afghanistan, no bases.
What's your latest information on the hunt for Osama bin Laden?
This is an ongoing effort. This has been an ongoing effort in the past few years. And I have no specific information about certain details of it, but I think the war continues against terrorism and against al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and other places. Where are we in the hunt? I'm not the best person to ask the question.
Is there an ongoing effort, though, to find him, his number two, Ayman al-Zawahiri, the former leader of the Taliban, Mullah Muhammad Omar? It's surprising to a lot of people, given the fact that you now control your country. There's a NATO involvement there, a U.S. military involvement. Why is it so hard to find these terrorists?
Osama bin Laden, my feeling is that he is outside Afghanistan.
Where do you think he is?
He is outside Afghanistan.
How do you know that?
There are coalition forces inside Afghanistan. There is the international security assistance forces. Our forces are involved in the search, and it will be very difficult for Osama bin Laden to hide inside Afghanistan.
So you think he might be where, in Pakistan?
Maybe in the areas in the borders.
In those tribal areas along the Pakistani-Afghan border?
It is possible.
What about Iran? Because there's been some suggestion by some analysts saying he might be hiding out in Iran.
One can guess such things, but I'm not of the opinion that he should be in that territory.
Do you think the movement of U.S. troops and equipment, specifically helicopters, to help in Pakistan with the devastation from the earthquake has hurt the hunt for terrorists in Afghanistan, most of that equipment coming from Afghanistan to neighboring Pakistan?
No, I don't think so. The capacity of the U.S. forces, the coalition forces inside Afghanistan to deal with the issue of terrorism, it has not been affected because of the humanitarian operation in the other side of the border or in Pakistan. Some equipments have been moved from here to there. We also, Afghanistan in itself, sent a few helicopters which we had to help the operations, but that level of support in the humanitarian operations will not affect the capacity of the war against terrorism.
There are still about 18,000 American troops in Afghanistan right now, is that right?
Yes.
84 of them have been killed this year, which is a significant increase from the past year, which suggests the insurgency in Afghanistan, we pay a lot of attention to the insurgency in Iraq, but the insurgency in Afghanistan continues. Listen to what General Jason Kamiya, the operation commander of the U.S. military in Afghanistan, is quoted as having said a few weeks ago. He said, "I'm not ready to sign up to the fact that the Taliban are crumbling. There still will be an enemy insurgency next spring in Afghanistan." Do you agree with that assessment?
That's a military analysis of U.S. commander inside Afghanistan. My view would be that with the continuation of the efforts, Taliban will crumble. And today they have changed their tactics. Like now they are turning against the ordinary people, civilians, aid workers, and so on and so forth. In the number of the casualties which you mentioned, unfortunately, there were some accidents as well, like helicopter crashes, and so on and so forth. But the Taliban are not finished in Afghanistan. They are still trying to gain control of territory in southern and eastern parts of the country. In the efforts of Afghanistan, and the coalition forces led by the United States continue in should continue in the coming months.
Dr. Abdullah, thank you very much for joining us, the Foreign Minister of Afghanistan. Good luck to you. Good luck to everyone in Afghanistan.
Thank you.
Appreciate your coming into the Situation Room. Up next, he ruled through fear and an iron fist for decades. Now, in just a few hours, Saddam Hussein goes on trial. The former dictator becoming a defendant. We'll have details. Plus, word of a record jackpot sending Powerball sales surging. Our Ali Velshi will show you why that's a mixed blessing for some small businesses. Stay with us.
Hey, I'm an actor in Spain. I'm famous for my whistle. It sounds like gonna be Astromania all over this house.
Astros win! Astros win!
I live for this!
Watch the World Series on Fox. Don't miss it.
Allison's eyes couldn't read fine print. She needed a new prescription.
Now my eyes see joy everywhere.
They're Allison's eyes, but they're my responsibility.
Right now at Pearl Vision, buy one pair of eyeglasses and get a free pair valued up to $200.
Congratulations.
The bankers of J.P. Morgan Chase have committed $800 billion to strengthen minority and low-income communities.
Hey, Dana, come on, baby.
It's not just a financial commitment.
Yes.
It's a commitment to the American dream. J.P. Morgan Chase.
Eat steak, eat a big old steer. Eat steak, we have one deer. Beef, it's a mighty good food. It's a grade A meal, and I'm in the mood. Eat steak, eat a big old steer.
Protect your family with life insurance from Prudential.
Hey, Dad, what's life insurance?
Well, life insurance is something parents buy. So, in case something happens to them, you kids will be okay.
Oh. Do we have life insurance?
Yeah, we do.
Good.
Yeah, it is good.
Just hours before his trial begins, Saddam Hussein is described by his lawyers as calm and confident. One of the attorneys visited the former dictator today and says he'll immediately ask the court for an adjournment, allowing more time to prepare for the case. Our chief international correspondent, Christiana Manpour, has more on the upcoming trial, which many Iraqis say they'll be watching very closely.
Saddam Hussein faces his first trial for crimes against humanity, for allegedly ordering the execution of 143 Shiite men from this village to jail, after his motorcade was ambushed there 23 years ago. But his brutal rule bludgeoned the whole nation's humanity, say these Iraqis who are eager to watch his trial. I would cut him up piece by piece, says Mehdi. Now a soccer coach, Mehdi's personal hatred of Saddam began when he was on the Air Force soccer team. One day I returned from training, he said, and I learned that my cousin had been executed that morning. For years, Iraqis lived in fear of Saddam and the statues and posters that loomed on every corner. But the fear started to fade when he was pulled, graying and disheveled, from a hole in the ground nearly 2 years ago. And it faded further when he appeared for his first court hearing a year and a half ago. On patrol with Iraqi troops in one of Baghdad's most dangerous neighborhoods, a new Iraqi soldier tells us, this trial will make a difference for all the Iraqi people. Saddam Hussein represents a dark period in our history. His commander agrees. If the trial is on television and in the press, it would be good, because Iraqis are thirsty for this. I think if Saddam is executed, 80% of the so-called resistance or terrorism will be eliminated. While the majority in Iraq want to see him executed, there are also many, mostly Sunnis, who do not. I hope he will be found not guilty and be freed, says Ahmed. I think he should get a life sentence because execution will be too merciful for him, says another customer. Amar is the barber, a Kurd. Saddam could later face trial for genocide for gassing the Kurds in 1988. What will he say to defend himself, he asks. And that's what Mehdi, whose cousin Saddam had executed, wants to know too. This is what I've been waiting for, he says. I just want to hear what he has to say, how he will answer to all those crimes he committed against the Iraqi people. Christiana Manpour, CNN, Baghdad.
The former Iraqi dictator is poised to become the latest addition to a notorious list. Our national correspondent Bruce Morton is joining us now with that part of the story. Bruce?
Wolf, as you know, Saddam Hussein is far from the first accused war criminal to go on trial. A look at past tribunals probably won't encourage him much.
Attention! Tribunal!
After World War II, the Allies tried Hermann Goering, Adolf Hitler's second in command. Hitler himself committed suicide as the Soviet army was rolling into Berlin. Goering was convicted of crimes against humanity and sentenced to death in 1946, but killed himself just hours before he was scheduled to be executed. The Pacific War, Japanese General Tomoyuki Yamashita, whose troops killed thousands of civilians in the Philippines, was convicted of war crimes and hanged in 1946. Hideki Tojo, Japan's prime minister and top military commander, was convicted of war crimes and hanged in 1948. Manuel Noriega, the Panamanian dictator U.S. troops overthrew in 1989, was convicted of drug trafficking in a U.S. court in 1992 and is serving a 30-year sentence. He'll be eligible for parole next year. Augusto Pinochet, the former president of Chile, was accused of killing thousands of his opponents. He's been charged with crimes but has been deemed to be too sick to stand trial. He is currently undergoing more tests, but he'll be 90 next month, and it's unclear whether he will ever face trial. In fact, under Chilean law, he is too old to go to prison. And finally, Serbian leader Slobodan Milosevic. He's accused of crimes against humanity in Serbia and Kosovo. His trial before a United Nations tribunal began in 2002. He's been a combative defendant.
I consider this tribunal false tribunal and indictments false indictments.
Some expect Saddam Hussein will be too, and the Milosevic trial is still going on. It's expected to end next year.
You'll notice going down that list that there aren't any acquittals. But you have to remember, in war crimes trials, it's usually the winners who try the losers and the winners who set the rules. Wolf?
All right, Bruce, thank you very much. In the age of internet, though, some war crimes tribunals actually have websites. Our internet reporter Jackie Schechner has a closer look at some of them. Let's check the situation online. Jackie?
Well, Phil, Bruce just mentioned the UN Tribunal in The Hague to try former Serbian leader Slobodan Milosevic and others. That website online, it's actually very detailed. They have the latest developments. They have headlines. You can actually watch the trial. There's an audio and video feed on a 30-minute delay. Another one we could take a look at from the United Nations is the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, and that is for genocide and war crimes affiliated with that. And then the one you want to take a look at now is the Iraqi Special Tribunal having to do with Saddam Hussein. They are updating with information and with photographs as the trial progresses. We want to make note that the English translation is not official. It is the Arabic that is official. That is just a courtesy. But what we'll do, Wolf, is as this trial progresses, keep checking in with the site and see if there's any information or documents that will be of help.
Thanks very much, Jackie. Good, useful information. Still to come here in the Situation Room, more on the Baltimore terror threat. I'll speak live with Maryland's Governor Robert Ehrlich. That's coming up. And that's the ticket for some small businesses. Selling lottery tickets can mean a very big fortune, but there's a flip side that's not necessarily all that profitable. Our Ali Velchi will explain.
Don't let your nest egg get away from you. Get objective financial advice instead. A.G. Edwards.
for 118 years, fully invested in our clients.
With more and more ways to communicate, how do you make faster connections, stronger papers, brighter inks, and electronics that are smarter, smaller, more energy efficient, and easier to use? By using the right chemistry. Improving the things we all need is a goal worth talking about, and it's ours. Dow. Living. Improve daily.
All of us have internal plumbing. But for some of us with frequent bladder urges, our pipes just don't work as well as they should. Sometimes you worry you could spring an embarrassing leak. So why deal with it on your own when there's something more you can do? Treat it once daily with Vesicare. Vesicare can reduce urges and may even help relieve bladder leakage. If you have certain types of stomach, urinary, or glaucoma problems, do not take Vesicare. While taking Vesicare, if you experience a serious allergic reaction, severe abdominal pain, or become constipated for 3 or more days, tell your doctor right away. Common side effects are dry mouth, constipation, blurred vision, and indigestion. So ask your doctor today if Vesicare is right for you. Fewer urges and leaks with Vesicare. Save $25 by calling now or visiting Vesicare.com for your free kit.
Closed captioning provided by Head On PM, a new pain reliever sleep aid applied directly to the forehead.
Head On, introducing a new headache treatment applied directly to the forehead. How fast do you want relief from your headaches and migraines? Head On. It's safe and it really works. In stores now.
Welcome back. More now on our top story. The threat that temporarily closed the Baltimore Harbor Tunnel earlier today. The Maryland Governor, Robert Ehrlich, is joining us now in the Situation Room. He's on the scene. Governor, thanks very much for joining us. Can you clarify whether or not there has been an arrest or two in this investigation?
Wolf, unfortunately, I'm not at liberty to give you that answer. I can tell you, though, that as we speak, new chapters continue to unfold. There are interviews being conducted. I don't know if I'd use the term raid, but certain things are being done, operations by the Federal Bureau of Investigation as we speak. So this thing has been ongoing from this morning.
So the threat still exists, or is it over with?
Well, you know, this is a case. They're working a case. They're working intelligence. They're working leads. They're conducting interviews. They're doing their job. And obviously, we have been working in conjunction with the FBI and local law enforcement. And it's been a very long day. It was a very long night last night, I have to tell you.
There was some suggestion earlier in the day that you were looking for 6 or 8 foreign nationals believed to be Egyptians who may be involved somehow in this. So what can you say, if anything, about that?
I can just say that there have been a series of interviews conducted, that the FBI is pleased with the progress they've made today. I am not at liberty to give you the precise number of interviews, nor if any arrests have been made, but they have been working very hard today, and we're certainly way ahead of where we were this time yesterday.
Knowing what you know right now, and obviously everyone is always smarter with hindsight, was it prudent to shut down that harbor tunnel earlier today?
Yes, and not as an exercise. We are obviously in the business of protecting the state of Maryland. We are also in the business of partnership. We partnership with the FBI. We partner with the FBI, I should say. And the FBI thought it was a good idea. When the FBI thinks it's a good idea, we generally also think it's a good idea. We did it. The time frame there was relevant to us, how quickly we can get it done. Well, if you can exercise, but this was not an exercise. This was the real thing, and to the extent that you're pleased once the real thing occurs, there's a sense of satisfaction. Obviously, we do train from time to time our senior police agencies, but this was a joint local, state, and federal effort today.
We're told that the specific threat, and it's uncorroborated, I take it, but the nature of the threat was very specific, that there was some sort of cargo container with the words cocoa on it that presumably was going to go into a tunnel and blow it up. Is that what we were talking about?
You know, you're asking me questions I cannot answer. I can only tell you that the intelligence gleaned from what various federal agencies told us was that we were obviously at some risk, some danger, that the tunnel was part of this operation, but not the sole part of this operation. As I said, there have been various other activities associated with this operation that have unfolded over the course of the day, and I believe are unfolding as we speak. So the tunnel was only one aspect of this entire operation.
What happened in those 2 hours or so that the tunnel was closed that convinced you and your authorities that it was a good idea to reopen the tunnel?
Working in conjunction with our federal partners, knowing what we knew at that time, we obviously deemed it prudent and safe to reopen those tunnels.
Governor, thanks very much.
And obviously,
yeah, go ahead.
Obviously, that question pertains to what was going on in other places with other people. So as events unfolded, we deemed it appropriate and, of course, safe to do it at that time.
Governor Ehrlich, thanks very much for joining us. Good luck in this investigation.
Thank you very much.
And our David Ensor is checking with his sources. He's getting additional information on what happened. We'll check in with David after a short break. Also, fire closes a major route in and out of Manhattan, snarling traffic. More on this 3-alarm fire. That's coming up as well. And even on a normal day, the trip to work can be a challenge. We'll begin a series on commuting with a look at the trade-off between control and cost. Stay with us.
CNN Tonight. Mark Garagos on the shocking murder of a prominent defense attorney's wife. The latest on the investigation. Only on Larry King Live. CNN Tonight, 9 Eastern.
Never plunge again. American Standard's new Champion flushing system with revolutionary flush tower technology. Only from American Standard.
Oregon business owners and managers have found a new alternative to old-fashioned, high-priced, classified help-wanted ads. They're using PortlandJobFinder.com.
We've had great results using PortlandJobFinder.com. It's cost-effective, and there's a great resume flow. But we particularly like the online submission of resumes so that we can review and properly screen the prospects.
There are no deadlines and no waiting for tomorrow's newspaper. Find the job applicants you need fast. It's free for job seekers and good for business.
Right now, Oregon kids are becoming better readers thanks to the efforts of the Portland New Car Dealers Association. Through their partnership with Operation Outreach, your local new car dealers help get books to kids who don't have books at home. Teachers are getting supplemental training materials, and Oregon kids are getting a chance to succeed and excel. Feels good to know our kids benefit from the generous support of the Metro Portland New Car Dealers, Operation Outreach, and Comcast Cable, making a difference for Oregon's kids.
Start your day with Paul Lindman in a morning update on News Radio 1190 KEX. Depend on us for the latest local news, traffic, weather, and sports. In the morning and all day long. At home, at work, and in the car. You can trust Paul Lindman and News Radio 1190 KEX to bring you the information you need with traffic and weather every 10 minutes. Depend on us. News Radio 1190 KEX.
Weather is the news. Trust CNN. It's essential.
Hey, Fred, don't tell me. We need a whole new storage solution, more capacity, better security. Ken wants recommendations on his desk ASAP.
How'd you do that?
I got the same email you did. I already called CDW. I took care of it.
Nobody responds like CDW. With great technology like the HP ProLiant BL20P G3 servers, powered by Intel Xeon processors. CDW, great technology right away.
The Bottom Line is brought to you by CDW. The right technology right away.
More developments now on that potential terror threat to Baltimore tunnel there. David Ensor is checking his sources. What are you picking up, David?
Well, Wolf, U.S. intelligence officials are saying that from the outset they had real questions about the credibility of the information about a possible terror threat to the harbor tunnels. And in fact, an official told me that the information came from a single, uncorroborated source overseas. So they are skeptical about whether there really was a threat. They were at the beginning and they remain so, but they are not second-guessing the decision of local authorities to do what they did in terms of closing it down. They say that's a decision that has to be made at the local level. Wolf?
All right, David, thank you very much. Let's go up to New York. Jack Cafferty's been going through your email. He's joining us with the Cafferty File. Jack?
Thanks, Wolf. In light of today's terror threat that closed that tunnel in Baltimore, we're asking, do you pay less attention to security threats now than you did right after September 11th? Alan writes from New Jersey, I pay more attention to them every day. The longer we go without a serious incident, the more likely we are to have one. It's not possible that we'll be able to stop these religious extremists forever. RS writes, I don't think anyone that watched people throwing themselves out of skyscrapers can ever take a terror threat lightly. Tiffany in Santa Monica, California, I pay less attention to terror threats now than I used to because I've come to the realization that every day I am threatened. Whether at level orange or level pink, the chances of me dying every day, whether at the hands of a terrorist or getting hit by a bus, are the same. Richard in Green Lawn, New York, all the warnings about September 11th were not properly paid attention to. And so now in New York City, the saying is, never forget, and we never will. And Helen in Tampa, Florida writes, when I saw dogs sniffing trucks outside the Baltimore tunnel, I thought Karl Rove and Scooter Libby had been indicted. This administration cynically uses fear for diversion. Wolf?
Helen, very skeptical in Tampa. Thanks very much, Jack. We'll see you tomorrow. A record $340 million jackpot expected with tomorrow night's Powerball lottery, but that's a mixed blessing for the thousands of small businesses that sell the tickets. Ali Velci has the story from New York. All right, explain what's going on, Ali.
All right, well, you know, a lot of the convenience stores in this country, a lot of them are gas stations. They've been losing out on the fact that they don't get the same gain that the gas companies get on the price of gas. Another thing that a lot of convenience stores sell is lottery tickets. Now, they have those little machines that are a little more sophisticated than this, but those little machines where you get your ticket, it actually costs more money to sell someone a lottery ticket than it is in a convenience store when you sell someone milk or juice or something like that, because you have to have the intervention of the clerk. Now, let's just talk about how many lottery tickets are actually sold in this country. In 2004, $48.8 billion in lottery sales. That's about an 8% increase over the year before. About 75% of those, about half of those sales come from convenience stores, and about 75% of convenience stores are individually owned. So there's a lot of gain to people who sell these tickets. Just so you know, a frequent lottery buyer spends about $7 a visit and shops 4.4 times a week. An infrequent lottery ticket buyer spends only $4.80 a visit and shops only 3.5 times a week. So the convenience store owners enjoy lottery ticket winners because they come into the store to buy their ticket and hopefully buy something else. So the $340 million jackpot for tomorrow hopefully is producing one winner, and that's at least the convenience store owners. Wolf?
I know you got the winning ticket, and I assume you're going to share the wealth. Thanks very much, Ellie.
All right.
Up next, think driving is the best way to go to work? Figures show your daily commute really amounts to a financial commotion. Our Tom Foreman, he's here. He'll explain what it's costing you in the first of our commuting experiments. Stay with us.
The Verizon Fiber Optic Broadband Network.
Connecting more people
to gaming, video, music, and each other. My job.
Make the network even stronger. Faster, more powerful.
With our growing team of experts, we're building the only large-scale, fully fiber optic network in America.
To deliver the next generation phone, internet, and TV. Our people. Our people.
Our network.
Our network.
Eat steak, eat a big old steer. Eat steak, do we have one deer? Eat beef, it's a mighty good food. It's a great meal when I'm in the mood. Eat steak, eat a big old steer.
The White Sox represent the common man. It's old school and new school, and we bring it all together, and we make the 2005 White Sox the best team in the league.
Oh, there's a celebration at the plate.
I live for this.
Watch the World Series on Fox. Don't miss it.
At BASF,
We don't make the car. We make it more colorful. We don't make a lot of the products you buy. We make a lot of the products you buy better. BASF, the chemical company.
Allison's eyes couldn't read fine print. She needed a new prescription.
Now my eyes see joy everywhere.
They're Allison's eyes, but they're my responsibility.
Right now at Pearl Vision, buy one pair of eyeglasses and get a free pair valued up to $200.
Hey, isn't Jacobson choking?
I'd definitely say Jacobson's choking.
I know exactly what to do. I've seen it in the movies. It's called the Heimlich maneuver. You make a ball, stand behind the guy, and pull hard. The action on the solar plexus.
That's right, the solar plexus.
Expels the food. Just like I told you.
Less talk.
Just like in the movies.
Make it happen. The Royal Bank of Scotland Group.
Getting a mortgage is a big deal. So is being treated fairly. That's why eLoan has no lender fees, has fought for the strictest privacy laws in the industry, and treats you with respect. Check out our current monthly mortgage options. Those are just some of the revolutionary ways we're changing the lending industry. eLoan. Radically simple.
Here's a look at some of the hot shots coming in from our friends over at the Associated Press. Pictures likely to be in your hometown newspapers tomorrow. A car's tires are disinfected as it leaves a quarantine village in western Turkey. Bird flu has killed more than 1,800 birds there in the past 2 days. In Taunton, Massachusetts, a woman evacuated from her home makes calls in a shelter. An overstressed dam protecting the small city could breach, prompting 2,000 evacuations. In Seoul, South Korea, a show of force from female police officers during an anti-terror exercise. And in Congo, a female gorilla smashes palm nuts between two rocks to extract oil. Scientists call it a surprising finding in gorillas. Some of today's hot shots. Pictures worth 1,000 words. Every day it causes millions of Americans headaches and hardships, accidents, fender benders, and a lot more. Yet we insist on doing it. That would be driving to work. What is it really costing you? Our Tom Foreman is here with a very personal account of what it costs all of us.
You know, Wolf, with gas pushing $3 a gallon, we ask a very basic question. Everybody out there is saying, what can I do? How can I somehow bring my cost under control? So this week we're doing an experiment where we're trying 4 different ways of commuting to see how it works out. And we started with what most Americans start with. We took a drive.
When Americans want to go anywhere, 9 times out of 10, they hop into the car, flip on the radio, and step on the gas.
The advantage to driving a car is obvious. You have complete control. You can adjust the music, you can pick news if you want to, you can change the climate inside the car, and you can change directions with a moment's notice.
The cost, however, is extraordinary. We spend about 47 hours a year just sitting in traffic. Sitting! Burning 9 billion gallons of fuel while we're at it. That's 800 times the amount spilled by the Exxon Valdez. Add up vehicle price, depreciation, fuel, repairs, insurance, and depending on the type of car you have, you're paying from 32 to 52 cents for every mile you drive. Filling up my SUV now takes about $60. The commute, 45 minutes each way. And when you add everything up, the grand total cost is more than $19 a day just to get door to door.
Wolf, we were highly conservative on all of these numbers. Everything here with gas at almost $3 a gallon goes only up. And tonight on Newsnight, and then again here tomorrow, we're going to look at using the metro. And today we had the strangest thing happen. I want you to look at this. This is downtown D.C., which is where we go and look at many, many things. If we fly into downtown D.C. and the Capitol, today we went from the U.S. Capitol over to the Metro Center to talk to them about the metro system. I don't know if this tells us anything about the world, but look what we found there a month before Thanksgiving. I'm not kidding. Look at this video. A live wild turkey roaming through downtown Washington, D.C. I don't think it's an editorial comment, but we didn't know what to make of it. We followed it for about 3 blocks. It then got away from us. We have no idea where it came from, but there was talk about it looking for a campaign.
You know, I found a lot of turkeys here in Washington, but that's another story. Tom, thanks very much. We're in the Situation Room every weekday afternoon, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm Wolf Blitzer. Lou Dobbs tonight starting right now. He's in New York. He's joining us live. Lou?
Thank you, Wolf. Good evening, everybody. Tonight, we're following 2 rapidly developing stories. First, we're watching Hurricane Wilma in the Caribbean. The National Hurricane Center now says Wilma could strengthen to a major hurricane within the next few days, and could then turn toward Florida. And tonight, we're monitoring what is a badly damaged dam in Taunton, Massachusetts, that the mayor now says could break at any time. A break would flood hundreds of homes and businesses with as much as 6 feet of water. At least 2,000 people have already been evacuated. We'll have the latest for you. But we begin tonight with what is nothing less than a remarkable reversal on the part of the Bush administration on the issues of border security and illegal immigration. A top government official who serves in an administration that has failed to establish border security or to enforce our national immigration laws made today's announcement. Homeland Security Secretary Michael Chertoff today declared he wants every single illegal alien caught in the United States to be deported without exception. Lisa Sylvester reports.
2 members of the president's cabinet made one thing clear. Amnesty is not on the table for a comprehensive immigration bill.
Clearly, amnesty would be an affront to the rule of law, would be an affront to those who are legal, who are waiting their turn.
There should not be a pathway to citizenship.
There should not be?
There should not be an automatic pathway to citizenship.
Homeland Security Secretary Michael Chertoff, in his prepared statement, articulated a hard line against non-Mexicans who, because of a lack of detention space, have been allowed to stay in the United States. Our goal at DHS is to completely eliminate the catch and release enforcement problem and return every single illegal entrant, no exception. The administration wants to pair tougher border and interior enforcement with a guest worker program. Under the plan, foreign workers would be matched with willing employers as long as Americans are not available to work. They could stay for 3 years with a 3-year extension. Afterward, they would be required to go back to their home country. Illegal aliens already in the country would have to pay a fine and get back in line behind others waiting to enter. Immigration reform groups say the administration talks a big game when it comes to enforcement, but the political will is not there.
It's clear that the enforcement talk is just that. It's spin in order to lull people into a sense of security that this immigration wave that they want to unleash won't cause problems, when in fact it will.
And ultimately, the decision on what's in the final bill rests with Congress. Both the House and the Senate are leaning toward legislation that has new border enforcement measures and leaves off the guest worker idea. And that reflects the views shared by many constituents who want the broken borders fixed first before addressing bringing in guest workers. Lou?
That appears to be the direction of both the House and even the Senate, that border security must be established before any attempt at immigration reform. Lisa Sylvester, thank you very much. It appears tonight that 2 leading senators with an immigration plan that has won widespread support among liberals have now joined forces with one of the country's most powerful business groups. Senators John McCain and Edward Kennedy and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce want to make it easier for illegal aliens who have broken the law to enter this country to stay in this country and to have the same rights as U.S. citizens. Today, at an event sponsored by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Senator McCain strongly criticized any suggestion that illegal aliens should be deported.
As you've heard, the opposing proposal, and I understand articulated by the administration today, is send them back before they can come back and work in this country. First of all, somebody's going to have to explain to me how you do that. Is it some massive airlift?
Tonight, Congressman Tom Tancredo, one of the strongest critics of the administration's failed immigration policies, declared the Bush White House now admits at least there is a problem. Congressman Tancredo said, quote, "It is no longer just the conservative base angry about illegal immigration. There's widespread discontent about our broken system from coast to coast." We also asked the Mexican embassy to comment on Secretary Chertoff's testimony, but the Mexican embassy would not reply to our calls. Later here in the broadcast, my guest will be Senator John Kyle of Arizona, Senator John Cornyn of Texas. They've introduced what is the strongest and potentially most effective plan for border security and immigration reform. Our border crisis is the subject of our poll tonight. Do you believe that every illegal alien caught in this country should be deported? Yes or no? Cast your vote at BlueDobbs.com. We'll have the results later here in the broadcast. Turning now to a terrorist threat in Maryland today that closed a major tunnel in Baltimore and partially closed another. More than 100,000 people were delayed by the security alert, which lasted nearly 2 hours. And tonight, we've learned that law enforcement agencies in Maryland are questioning a number of people about an alleged terrorist plot involving Egyptian citizens. Gene Meserve has the report. Gene?
Lou, also tonight, U.S. intelligence officials say they have serious questions about the credibility of the threat information, which was received by U.S. government officials in a phone call from overseas. But the investigation is continuing. There have been no arrests, sources say, and no alleged terrorists have been found. But interviews are being conducted in the Baltimore area. According to sources, the alleged plot involved the shipment of explosives into Baltimore disguised as cocoa. They would be placed in a truck and driven into an unspecified Baltimore tunnel. The purported scheme involved a small group of Egyptians, officials say. It was specific enough for Maryland transit authorities to close one tunnel and restrict another for almost 2 hours, resulting in lengthy traffic delays. The Department of Homeland Security and FBI said they supported security measures taken by state and local officials out of an abundance of caution. That was a striking contrast to the disagreement over New York's decision to raise security on city transit systems almost 2 weeks ago. And there were claims today of good communication among state, federal, and local officials, but there was one exception. Some Baltimore officials said they learned about the tunnel closures from television. Lou?
Gene Meserve, thank you very much. In Washington tonight, the CIA White House leak investigation nears an end, and sources tell CNN that indictments are now expected, and those indictments could come as soon as tomorrow. And there are indications that Special Prosecutor Patrick Fitzgerald's investigation is centering on the possible role of Vice President Dick Cheney's office in the leak of the CIA agent's name. Dana Bash reports from the White House.
Get the Doha round.
Vice President Cheney in the Oval Office, a smile knowing the camera is pointed at him for a reason. Headlines suggesting federal investigators are focused on Mr. Cheney's office, even him personally, in their search for who leaked the name of a covert CIA operative. The New York Times' Judith Miller reported the special prosecutor not only asked about discussions with Cheney Chief of Staff Scooter Libby, but she said, Mr. Fitzgerald asked whether Mr. Cheney had known what his chief aide was doing and saying. Miller said her answer was no. Sources familiar with the grand jury testimony of current and former Bush and Cheney aides tell CNN several were questioned about the vice president's role in rebutting criticism from former Ambassador Joe Wilson, which he says ended up outing his wife's covert identity. But experts urge caution.
But the fact that somebody is the subject of questions doesn't mean that they're a target of an investigation. All it means for sure is that the prosecutor's doing his job.
What Patrick Fitzgerald appears to be probing is motive. Before the Iraq War, the vice president asked for more information on a report Saddam Hussein tried to buy uranium from Africa. Without Cheney's knowledge, the CIA responded by dispatching Joe Wilson to find out. He came back saying the report was false, and in this column mentioning the vice president, Wilson accused the administration of ignoring his findings. The president still used the Africa connection in his case for war.
I don't know Joe Wilson. I've never met Joe Wilson.
On NBC in 2003, Cheney denied knowledge of Wilson's report or even reading it. Central to the investigation is whether the administration effort to distance Cheney from Wilson, instead steering reporters to the CIA, resulted in disclosure of his wife's covert identity, which could be a crime.
And he was not under oath, but the vice president was interviewed by federal prosecutors in June of 2004. 16 months ago, Lou, and administration officials say that was the only time.
And the visibility, Dana, of both Scooter Libby and Karl Rove in recent days at the White House?
Well, officials here insist that Karl Rove is still very much active in all of the things that fall under his portfolio, which, as you know, is quite a lot of things. In terms of public view, we haven't actually seen him very much. And as a matter of fact, he was supposed to go to outside events of the White House around town, 2 of them last week that he didn't go to. He sent other people in his place.
Dana Bash, thank you. From the White House. Well, the White House is preparing to deal with whatever political fallout results from the White House CIA leak investigation. It is simultaneously trying to stave off criticism of the president's Supreme Court nominee, Harriet Miers. Miers today went back to Capitol Hill, trying to win the support of skeptical senators in a new attempt to win over disappointed and angry conservatives critical to the success of the nomination. The White House gave senators a questionnaire on abortion that Miers had completed back in 1989. But Miers' answers to that questionnaire may have angered many Democrats. Ed Henry reports from Capitol Hill.
Senator Arlen Specter is growing frustrated that Harriet Miers' nomination is getting bogged down.
I'm becoming more and more concerned that Harriet Miers is being tried in the media.
The latest blow-up over abortion. The White House gave Specter's committee documents, including a questionnaire Miers filled out in 1989 while running for Dallas City Council, in which she supported a constitutional ban on abortion. Some White House allies are circulating the document to convince restless Republicans she will support their agenda. That mission became more critical after Specter said Miers privately told him a key Supreme Court decision, the underpinning for legalized abortion, was rightly decided. Miers claims Specter misunderstood her, though the senator stands behind his version and refused a White House request for a correction.
It seemed to me that the best course is to accept her view and to defer getting into it any more deeply until the hearing.
Even as Miers' allies try to shore up conservative support, they angered Democrats like Dianne Feinstein, who charged the questionnaire raises, quote, very serious concerns about whether Miers will be biased on the abortion issue.
Democrat Chuck Schumer said that after all the back and forth, senators in both parties are more confused than ever about exactly where Harriet Miers stands on abortion. Ed Henry, CNN, Capitol Hill.
Coming up, Hurricane Wilma headed for possible weekend landfall in Florida. We'll have the latest for you on this dangerous storm. And a new assault on the U.S. middle class. Millions of U.S. technology jobs could be lost to cheap foreign labor at the request of American business. A special report coming up, and the store that wants to sell you everything now wants to be your banker as well. Why shoppers may one day be doing their banking as well as their grocery shopping and just about everything else at Walmart, and why many people are up in arms.
Lou Dobbs Tonight is brought to you by Norfolk Southern. The future of transportation is the thoroughbred of transportation.
Last year, Norfolk Southern took hundreds of thousands of freight loads off the highways. This year, they have the capacity to handle even more. Norfolk Southern, the future of transportation.
A line has been drawn. On one side, you will find SUVs. On the other, sports cars. But if you draw a new line, this is what you'll find. It's a 315 horsepower brave idea called the FX. From a company called Infinity.
I want to sail the Pacific.
I want the best for my family.
I want my son to have my business.
We want to ride across the country.
Get what you want with the power of the pyramid. Transamerica's experts offer tailor-made insurance, investment, and retirement solutions to help you achieve anything you want.
I just want my son to get a haircut.
Well, almost anything. Transamerica, the power of the pyramid.
My mom's on Medicare, and it's a good thing because she takes a lot of medication. Between the high cholesterol and everything else, her costs keep going up. She takes some generic drugs, some brand, and they get more and more expensive. Would it make sense for us to get one of those new Medicare prescription drug plans? And if so, would her drugs be covered? Even her brand drugs?
Possibly. Call for your 5-minute Aetna answer and we can tell you. Call Aetna Medicare at 1-800-2-ANSWER. We want you to know Aetna Medicare.
Aaron, you make this personal, and it is.
That is my work, my time away from my kids. If that's not personal, I don't know what is.
Academy Award winner Julia Roberts is Erin Brockovich. 3 nights to watch, beginning Friday night at 8 on TNT.
The thing you try to do when you're on a story is fit in that small little camera lens all that you're seeing and all that you're feeling.
Anderson Cooper, your eyes, your ears, your connection. AC 360, CNN Tonight, 7 Eastern.
3 American troops have been killed in combat in Iraq. 2 of our Marines were killed in a firefight in the town of Rutba in western Iraq, and an American soldier was killed in a shooting incident in Mosul. In Balad, 10 of our soldiers were wounded there in a roadside bombing. The number of American troops now killed in Iraq numbers 1,982. Meanwhile, the attorney representing Saddam Hussein says he wants a 3-month adjournment in the former dictator's trial in Baghdad. That trial is scheduled to begin tomorrow. Saddam Hussein is charged with ordering a massacre of civilians in 1982. He is charged with crimes against humanity. CNN will have complete coverage of Saddam Hussein's trial when it begins early tomorrow morning, sometime shortly after 2 a.m. Eastern. Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld is tonight in Beijing. They're focusing on Communist China's rising military power. Before he landed, Rumsfeld told reporters that China is understating the true extent of its military spending. But the secretary appeared to be much less critical of China than he was in a speech he made 4 months ago. Jamie McIntyre reports from the Pentagon.
Gentlemen, good to see you.
Even before he stepped off his plane in Beijing, Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld was setting a conciliatory tone for his 3-day visit to China.
But obviously it's up to the People's Republic of China to make its decisions as to how it wants to arrange itself from a political and an economic and a security standpoint. But as they make those decisions, the rest of the world sees those decisions and makes judgments about it.
Just 4 months ago, in a speech in Singapore, Rumsfeld was challenging the Chinese government with pointed questions. Why is China's military spending much higher than it admits? Why is it expanding its missile forces to target countries beyond the Pacific? Why a massive military buildup if no nation threatens China? But with President Bush scheduled to visit China next month, and Rumsfeld now on Chinese soil for the first time since he took over the Pentagon in 2001, Rumsfeld is taking a more diplomatic approach, urging the Chinese to work with the U.S. in a spirit of mutual respect and friendship. A Pentagon report released just this summer estimated China's defense budget at $90 billion a year and concludes the buildup was aimed at either intimidating or invading Taiwan, which Beijing claims is a renegade territory.
It's one of the most significant military modernizations in history. And anyone who would deny that, I think, is simply trying to avoid a difficult truth.
But Kurt Campbell, a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, argues unlike the old Soviet Union, China can't be contained.
And we shouldn't be thinking about a relationship with China in which containment is the watchword. Containment belongs to a bygone era with a different kind of strategic foe in the Soviet Union, which China just does not approximate.
In another speech last month, Deputy Secretary of State Robert Zoellick argued that the U.S. needs China for everything from battling Islamic extremists to convincing North Korea to give up its nuclear weapons. The U.S. policy, he said, is not to fence China in, but to try to draw it out. Lou?
Interesting statements by the Undersecretary. The fact is that Zoellick is the architect of every failed free trade policy over the course of the past 5 years. In point of fact, China has not been helpful in concluding any sort of agreement with North Korea. In point of fact, he's not been successful on any level. Why such a statement?
Well, the U.S. still believes that if anyone has influence over North Korea, it is China, and it could still be helpful in that forum. The U.S. also believes that if, unlike, for instance, the case of the Soviet Union, with the flow of information into China, that if they can maintain the sort of progress, and if China really wants economic prosperity, that the forces within China could contribute to an eventual democracy there. But you know, it's a slow process. You have to take the long view of it, they say.
A long view indeed, because the short and immediate view is that China is cracking down on a free press that does not exist, in point of fact, in China, cracking down on the media, rolling back. It's a totalitarian state. It's a communist nation. A little bizarre, this talk of democratization.
Well, the Pentagon is not ignoring the military threat. In fact, they're quite concerned about it. And the U.S. is taking steps to improve its military posture in the region. But again, they don't see an immediate threat from China. They do see a potential threat down the road.
Jamie McIntyre from the Pentagon. Thank you, Jamie. Secretary Rumsfeld arrived in China just as Treasury Secretary John Snow was leaving. Secretary Snow seemed nothing short of just enamored with the Chinese after his one-week visit. In fact, Secretary Snow gave a speech today praising China for what he called its economic reforms. But Secretary Snow made little, if any, reference to our nation's exploding trade deficit with China, the most unbalanced trade relationship in the history of the world. He also failed to mention China's dismal human rights record, as well as the loss of thousands of American jobs to China's cheap labor markets. Still ahead, Walmart, the big box retailer, wants to be your big box bank as well, and a whole bunch of other stuff. We'll have a special report on Walmart's controversial new business plan, and the California flood watch, massive mudslides and new threats of flooding. Stay with us.
CNN Tonight, all new at 7. A devastating hurricane. Thousands left homeless. Tonight, Anderson returns to New Orleans to show you what life is like now. Then at 8, an operating room nightmare.
I was screaming inside, "Stop, I'm awake."
What you need to know before you go under the knife. CNN Tonight, beginning 7 Eastern.
My parents retired on just their pension. For me, I know even 401ks and IRAs won't be enough.
Stocks and bonds alone aren't enough anymore.
My dad put 4 of us through college by investing. Even with just 2 kids, we're planning beyond stocks and bonds.
At Merrill Lynch, we'll help all your money work harder by working together. Cash, investments, mortgages, retirement. That's Total Merrill.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Davis.
Eric the intern, what's the pick of the week?
Hey guys. Shooting the thing with Davis. Davis, right now get a Sweet Dell Inspiron 6000 notebook with an Intel Pentium M processor for $7.99. Other notebooks start at $4.99. It's great for when I'm out hanging with my friends. Hey guys. It's not nice.
CNN Tonight, Mark Garagos on the brutal murder of a prominent defense attorney's wife in their own home. All the latest on the investigation into this shocking mystery. Only on Larry King Live, CNN Tonight, 9 Eastern.
Don't you want to know what's going on out there? CNN Security Watch, the most reliable news about your family's safety and security, only on CNN.
Explore a place where amazing things happen. Where the world's biggest challenges are faced every day. And yet, it feels just like home. Oregon State University.
Comcast.
Pay-per-view.
You want game? This fall, ESPN Game Plan has more than 150 extra college football games. Team matchups and rivalries from major conferences. All available when you order your exclusive ESPN Game Plan pay-per-view package. Don't wait. Bring your team home now and order all the action with ESPN pay-per-view. Call today.
Weather is the news. Trust CNN. It's essential.
There's shocking new evidence tonight that high-paying U.S. technology jobs face a continued and growing threat from cheap foreign labor markets. Foreign competition that has already decimated our nation's manufacturing workforce is now threatening the jobs of middle-class technology workers. Christine Romans has the story.
The middle-class American technology worker is under siege. In the last year, more job losses for workers in computer chip manufacturing and electronic components, and barely any growth at all in telecommunications. In fact, according to Challenger Gray and Christmas, job cuts in technology are up 20% this year over last.
It looks as though the middle class, these tech workers, just aren't participating in the recovery that's been going on.
He says even as technology spending grows, executives prefer to add workers through outsourcing and mergers. It's why the unemployment rate for computer programmers is worse than the national average. Yet, as jobs are scarce in information technology, the Senate Judiciary Committee is considering letting more foreign workers in to do those jobs by raising the number of H-1B visas sold to foreign workers. Under a draft of the proposal obtained by Lou Dobbs tonight, those visas would be sold for $500 each to 60,000 workers each year for the next 5 years. That's on top of the annual cap of $65,000 a year. Critics say essentially it is selling visas at the expense of American workers.
And to have these congressmen, many of them quite rich, to be even sitting behind closed doors or open doors to consider whether or not to sell out another 60,000 U.S. workers for $500 each is simply outrageous.
He suggests raising the fee for H-1B visas to $5,000, making companies more likely to at least consider Americans for tech jobs first.
Numerous sources, including a Senate Judiciary Committee staffer, tell us Senator Arlen Specter is the architect of this proposal to offer more H-1B visas. Despite several calls, his office would not comment to the program. But critics say, given higher than average unemployment in some computer careers and fraud, frankly, in the H-1B visa program, it just doesn't make any sense, Lou, to let more foreign workers in when there's a scarcity of these jobs in the first place. That's just putting American workers at a disadvantage.
Again, and still. And the fact is, the only sense it does make is the sense that's prevailing. That is, that it's providing cheap labor instead of quality, but more expensive labor. Imagine that, paying a prevailing wage to hardworking middle-class Americans. I can't wait to see whether or not the Senate Judiciary Committee and Senator Specter's office will see fit to respond to us, because when you start talking about stripping 60,000 jobs from the technology industry that should be going to Americans, that does require some explanation. Thank you very much, Christine Romans. Amazing. Just ahead tonight, a state of emergency. Days of heavy rains and flooding threatening to break a nearly 200-year-old dam in Massachusetts. The town protected by that dam is preparing for the worst. Evacuations have already taken place. We'll have that live report for you next. And then another hurricane could be just days away from striking the United States. We'll have the latest on where and when Hurricane Wilma could strike. Stay with us.
You still need to choose a Medicare drug plan.
Oh, the big fight's about to start.
Well, you don't want a big fight to start in here, do you? Besides, you could be saving money.
Wait just a minute. How much?
Says here Pacificare could save you hundreds, even thousands of dollars.
Thousands?
One thing the good old days didn't have is Medicare drug coverage. Now, if you're Medicare eligible, Prescription Solutions from Pacificare makes the new drug coverage even better, offering a variety of plans starting under $23 a month in many states, including a plan that eliminates the $2,850 Medicare coverage gap. Call us anytime, 24 hours a day, to get our free prescription drug plan information kit. In addition to our Medicare drug plans, Pacificare also offers dental and vision programs starting at just $5 a month. Call now to learn how to get coverage starting January 1st. If Fred could have done it, he would have.
In 1932, during the darkest days of the Great Depression, the first Stanford company was established. Although times were difficult, Lotus Stanford found success through the simple philosophy of hard work, clear vision, and value for the client. Today, 73 years later, the Stanford Financial Group of companies still adhere to these principles. We build to last. Call us at 1-888-9-STANFORD or visit stanfordfinancial.com.
Tonight in Taunton, Massachusetts, an almost 200-year-old wooden dam is in danger of collapse after heavy rains. The next couple of hours could decide whether the town of 56,000 residents can escape major flooding. Adora Yodoji is live in Taunton tonight. She has the latest for us. Adora?
Good evening, Lou. We're standing right next to the Mill River, a very bloated Mill River. And the big question for the people in this very small city, and especially for those 2,000 people who were evacuated, is whether or not the dam, which is just up a little bit, is going to hold up, whether it will stay together as the floodwaters have been rising. I'm sorry, all that rain in the last couple of days has caused quite a bit of rising waters, and so the mayor says that the dam has deteriorated significantly in the last 8 to 10 hours, the Whittington Pond Dam, and it was that rain forcing those levels up that increased pressure on the dam that triggered some leaks yesterday that was of great concern. Now, the center of downtown would suffer a direct hit if that dam collapsed and forced water down the Mill River, which is why the mayor issued an evacuation order, a voluntary evacuation order for the low-lying areas in downtown. That would be hundreds of businesses and homes, leading to those roughly 2,000 people, the mayor's telling us, that have evacuated to safer and higher ground. Still, the city is under a state of emergency, as you mentioned, and the mayor spoke late this afternoon, and this is what he had to say.
The condition of the dam at Whittington Mills is still being monitored by dam inspectors and officials from the Taunton Fire Department and Taunton Police Department. There are no significant changes to the structure of the dam. The water level has not receded. There is excessive vibration, which is a concern. Again, we encourage the residents who live along the Mill River to evacuate. All streets in the downtown area are closed.
Now, the mayor saying over and over again that they are erring on the side of caution. They've brought in roughly 24 National Guard. There are all kinds of rescue workers who are on standby to rush in if there is any problem with that dam and it begins to leak or perhaps collapses, forcing all kinds of water down this way. So, Lou, lots of anxiety here in Taunton tonight.
Understandably so. Adora Doge in Taunton, Massachusetts, thank you very much. Tonight, hundreds of residents are returning to their homes in Burbank, California, after torrential rains and mudslides. Mudslides slammed into Burbank neighborhoods, turning streets into filthy, raging rivers yesterday. More than 3 feet of mud is still being cleared from some roadways. This gushing water filled with sediment in the streets of Burbank. And rain is still falling in the Los Angeles area tonight. Flood watches remain in effect. More than 10,000 people lost power in yesterday's Southern California storms. Turning now to our nation's latest hurricane threat, it is Hurricane Wilma. Wilma strengthened into the 12th hurricane of this season earlier today. Wilma is a slow-moving Category 1 storm right now. It has sustained winds of 80 miles an hour. But Hurricane Wilma is expected to pick up speed and intensity later in the week. Forecasters are expecting Wilma to make landfall Saturday. The most probable target tonight, South Florida, but Wilma could shift course and hit further west along the storm-ravaged Gulf Coast. It is far too early to tell, and it could hit as a dangerous Category 3 storm or higher, according to the National Hurricane Center. More now on our top story tonight, the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing on our nation's border crisis. My next guests are members of the committee who have introduced their own plan for immigration reform, a plan that, if implemented, has the best chance of asserting border security and stopping the massive invasion of illegal aliens. Senator John Kyle of Arizona, Senator John Cornyn of Texas join us now from Capitol Hill. Gentlemen, after today's hearing, what is your reaction to Secretary Chertoff's remarks?
Well, I'll start with that. Secretary Chertoff focused on the Department of Homeland Security appropriation bill, which President Bush signed this afternoon, and noted that it is a huge step forward in enabling us to get control of the border and also provide better security within the country. It's an appropriation bill that will now fund most of the activities that we've been lobbying for a long time in a very robust way. And what it goes to demonstrate is that you don't have to wait for immigration reform legislation to pass to begin really going after the enforcement issue, which is what this appropriation bill will do.
Senator Cornyn, we have heard officials before, certainly not from this administration, talk about border security. These were certainly the strongest statements I've heard from anyone in this administration about border security. This was also a day in which the president, talking about that very same legislation on Homeland Security, saying that we have border security. Were you taken aback just a bit by the president's words?
Well, I actually did not hear specifically what the president said, but what we heard today from Secretary Chertoff, Secretary Chow, is an unequivocal commitment to obtaining operational security of our border. And I tell you, Lou, the best news I heard today is that Secretary Chertoff said the catch and release policy of the United States government was intolerable and it was going to be ended as soon as absolutely possible.
Is it coincidental, gentlemen, that the Secretary's remarks come and Senator Bill Frist, the Senate Majority Leader's remarks of last week, come as most congressmen and senators are returning from their districts, their home states, and have heard constituents say they're sick and tired of the issue of illegal immigration and the continued permission that the federal government is giving to absolutely ignore U.S. laws?
Well, from my perspective, Lou, I just spent the last week out in Arizona announcing my candidacy for re-election, and I say there are three issues in Arizona. It's immigration, immigration, and immigration. And everybody is upset about it, and they do want the laws enforced first. They think some kind of guest worker program is important, but they want to see a commitment to enforce the laws, which would include ensuring that a guest worker program is properly enforced.
A guest worker program that is not an amnesty program, is clear a statement from an administration official that there will be no amnesty today. Senator Cornyn, your thoughts?
Well, Secretary Chow got a little pushback from members of the committee about that, wondering why we couldn't have a path to citizenship under this temporary worker program. I was glad to see her emphasize the principle of work and return, not work and stay, which characterizes the proposal Senator Kyle and I have made, which is not designed to be an alternative path to citizenship, but merely to ameliorate the other concerns, the economic concerns, the workforce concerns, without creating amnesty.
Gentlemen, is it your view that the administration is prepared to support your legislation in the Senate, which requires first border security and then dealing with the issue of immigration reform?
Let me answer that two ways. First of all, by signing the legislation today that really puts us on a path toward enforcement, the administration is acknowledging, and the President said as much this afternoon, that it starts with enforcement. And then probably is going to be next spring before we actually get immigration reform legislation passed, and that's when a temporary worker program would then go into effect. The proposal that Secretary Chow talked about today is pretty close to what Senator Cornyn and I have introduced, not exactly like it, but in terms of the key principles, no amnesty and work and return, it's pretty close.
Senator Kyle, Senator Cornyn, we thank you both for being here.
Thanks, Lou.
A reminder now to vote in our poll. Do you believe that every illegal alien caught in this country should be deported? Yes or no? Cast your vote, please, at BlueDobbs.com. We'll have the results coming up later in the broadcast. Still ahead, Walmart wants to have an even more dominant presence in communities, if you can imagine that, in communities all over the country. We'll have the latest for you on the big box retailer that wants to be a big box banker and just about everything else. And in New Orleans, a city where there is no prevailing wage, two men who say they were fired and replaced by low-wage foreign workers. They're our guests coming up next. Stay with us.
What if everyone just settled for average? What if nobody raised the bar? What if everyone decided to let someone else figure it out? By investing in Russia's oil and natural gas reserves, the world's second largest, ConocoPhillips is helping ensure global energy production for decades to come. Turning what ifs into what's next is just another way we elevate.
Protect your family with life insurance from Prudential.
Hey, Dad, what's life insurance?
Well, life insurance is something parents buy. So in case something happens to them, you kids will be okay.
Oh. Do we have life insurance?
Yeah, we do.
Good.
Yeah, it is good.
Who would ever think that the waste we generate could generate enough green energy to power an entire community? Who would think that neighborhood playing fields could share common ground with a working landfill? We would. We're Waste Management, and we're partnering with communities to create places we can all be proud to call home. From everyday collection to environmental protection, think green, think Waste Management.
Now, according to this chart, our brokerage commissions are the lowest.
Okay, what about Brownco?
Oh, they're not on this chart.
Why not?
Oh, their fees are too low.
You just said yours were the lowest.
Yeah, the lowest on this chart.
Well, who made the chart?
I did. I'm Selective Research. Nice chart. Do you think? Yeah.
Get serious. Get Brownco. With $5 online equity market orders for 5 years and running, no wonder we're not on anybody's charts. Brownco, a brokerage service of JP Morgan Asset Management.
CNN Tonight, all new at 10.
Even if Mother Teresa gets $100 million of beating,
California's governor, unscripted.
her approval rating will go down too.
The interview you haven't heard. CNN Tonight, 10 Eastern.
I'm Maria Cabrera, and I'm a fire captain. 9/11 was difficult, not only for the entire country, of course, but particularly for firefighters. We were glued to CNN stations. The most popular news station during any catastrophe that I've witnessed has been CNN.
As we reported, Homeland Security Secretary Michael Chertoff today said his goal is to expel every single illegal alien caught in this country. My next guest feels quite differently from Secretary Chertoff and countless American citizens on the issue of illegal immigration. Senator Richard Durbin of Illinois and other Democrats have asked Secretary Chertoff to promise not to deport any illegal alien found seeking aid in the wake of the Gulf Coast hurricanes. Senator Durbin, a member of the Judiciary Committee, which Secretary Chertoff testified before today. Joining us from Capitol Hill, Senator, there are estimates that run as high as 20 million illegal aliens in this country, 3 million crossing our borders just last year. Why would you make such a request of Secretary Chertoff?
It's the same thing we did after 9/11. After the 9/11 crisis, this same administration announced that when it came to people coming forward who were victims of 9/11 or members of their families seeking assistance from this government, this same administration said, we're not going to deport you. Now the rules have changed. I asked Secretary Chertoff, why change them? He said, I wasn't aware they were changed.
In your judgment, why would it be important to do that in the wake of Hurricane Katrina? Quite a different disaster.
Well, what we
quite
had,
a different circumstance.
Yeah, of course. But we had at least 5 different instances where people went to basic shelters for food and for water and for just some roof over their head for their children, and they were deported for turning up and asking for that. It seems harsh to me. And why would we take on a policy so inconsistent with what we did just a few years ago?
One is that since 2001, we have seen illegal immigration skyrocket in the country. 3 million illegal aliens successfully entering this country last year. We have 150,000 other than Mexican illegal aliens crossing our borders, at least who have been captured, perhaps 3 times that many successfully entering the country. My question, I guess, Senator, is why would there be a focus on this issue rather than the fact, the incredible burden that those who hire illegal aliens in this country are placing upon the middle class, depressing wages, costing billions of dollars in social and health services across the country?
Lou, were you aware of the fact the same administration, when it came to Hurricane Katrina, said that they were going to waive employer sanctions for those who hired the undocumented?
Senator, I'm not only aware of it, I have criticized this administration roundly for rolling back Davis-Bacon and refusing to, in an effort not to pay a prevailing wage in the very area that's been decimated by these disasters. The very suggestion to me is obscene, when at the same time the federal government is putting out cost-plus contracts to construction and contractors.
Well, right on.
I find it absolutely deplorable.
But if you think that this policy in Hurricane Katrina from this administration is hard to follow, maybe unintelligible, the same thing can be said of our immigration laws. My point is this. I don't understand the Katrina policy, and neither of the secretaries today could explain it. Why you say to employers, you can go ahead and hire the undocumented in one instance, and then when a person shows up with a child at a shelter asking for food and water, they're saying, we're deporting you right now. That just doesn't make sense. But let me just concede the obvious. This immigration system is not working. It has failed. But we've also got to acknowledge the fact that we have some 10 million Americans who are now undocumented and a part of our economy in the United States. We have people who are a major part of the economy in the city of Chicago.
Well, you say a major part of the, excuse me, Senator, but you know, I've heard this line of reasoning from too many people suggesting they're a major part of the economy. What they are is a way in which employers manage to pay less than fair wages so that they can have labor rather than paying prevailing wages to U.S. citizens. You know, this nonsense that illegal aliens do work that Americans won't do, That is utter nonsense.
Well,
they
I'm sorry.
Americans won't do work for the low wages that are being offered.
I have to disagree with you. There is exploitation. There's no doubt about the exploitation. I'm not sitting here trying to defend it in any way. But I will just tell you point blank, go to a major city in America, certainly a major city in my state, and ask restaurant owners and hotel owners how their businesses would fare without undocumented workers. And you'll see the harsh reality. These men and women are doing things and jobs every single day. They're an important part of the economy. And if you had your wish and they all left tomorrow, it would have a dramatic negative impact. We've got to have a system that enforces our laws, but creates a means by which people can earn their way to legal residency.
Senator,
if they work hard and pay taxes, they're good citizens and basically
Senator,
follow
they
the
broke
rules.
the law and they violated every aspect of our immigration laws.
Lou, I wish you could sit in my office. I wish you could sit in my office.
I wish you'd come to my office.
I wish you would sit in my office and hear some of the cases. What about an 18-year-old girl who came from Korea at the age of 2, whose parents didn't file the necessary and proper paperwork? She learns at age 18
Senator, come to my
she's
office.
undocumented.
Come to my office and listen to the thousands of people who are lined up to get immigration, legal immigration into this country, who are absolutely distraught. You and everyone in the United States Senate who is not dealing with this issue, the United States Congress and this White House, have effectively put Vicente Fox in charge of America's immigration
Don't overstate my position because I haven't really been asked to explain it, but I will tell you what I feel. First, the system is terrible. It needs to be enforced for our security and for our economy. There is no question about it. Secondly, if the system is going to work to get 10 million plus to come forward and to make certain we know who they are, where they're working, and when they're going to stay or go home, then we've got to have a system that doesn't basically say, if we catch you, you're gone. And I think the systems that we've heard may make us feel good that we're getting tough, but I don't think they answer that basic question.
In the basic question that I was waiting to hear asked of Secretary Chertoff testifying before your committee today. Secretary of Homeland Security. Mr. Secretary, how can the President of the United States talk about border security? How can you be the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security and permit 3 million people to enter this country illegally?
Well, I think the reality is that is one of the national security issues that we have to own up to. It's a real one, and it's a legitimate question. But let's also be very candid about this. The idea that we can close our borders to Canada and Mexico and keep everyone out is not a realistic proposal.
Should we just then surrender?
No, of course not.
Well, then why in the world can't the greatest superpower on the face of the earth, the greatest economy, the greatest society and democracy have the leadership and the will to provide security for its borders? We're spending $200 billion a year in a war against terror, and we don't have the capacity to protect our own borders?
We do have that capacity
then why don't we
to
do
some
it?
extent, but to say that we can keep every person out who wants to cross a 2,000-mile border is unrealistic. What we've got to say is once you're here, those who want to go to work, we're going to hold employers responsible for hiring people who are undocumented. We've not done that. I think that's got to be part of the enforcement of this. We also have to understand 10 million are here. What are we going to do to move to where we want to be?
Senator Durbin, it's good to have you with us. We're out of time. At least it appears that an awakening has begun on the part of the administration. Hopefully it'll be a profound and real one. We thank you.
Thanks, Lou.
Still ahead, Walmart wants to have an even greater dominant presence in your community, in communities all over the country, in fact. The outrageous story tonight of 2 men who were hired to help New Orleans rebuild, who say that they were fired after 3 weeks, taught some other people how to speak the language, and were then replaced by those lower paid foreign workers. We'll find out the truth. I'll be talking with them next. Stay with us.
Anderson Cooper, your eyes, your ears, your connection. AC360, next.
No matter where you are or where you want to go in Oregon or anywhere in the USA, you deserve a simple healthcare plan that's there when you need it. You deserve HealthNet Options Plus, featuring comprehensive coverage, including alternative care options. Choose any Medicare physician across the nation without a referral for only $53 a month. It really is that simple. Call now at 1-800-822-7698 and discover the flexibility of HealthNet Options Plus. 1-800-822-7698.
Shopping for a new home? Did you know that in the time it takes you to drive to just one house, you could visit 100 without leaving your home? Coldwell Banker Barbara Sue Properties introduces a better way to shop. Find your new home on TV or online, anytime. Hundreds and hundreds of dream homes are now just a click away. On Channel 15 or at cbseal.com. Coldwell Banker Barbara Sue Properties. Discover the joy of home shopping from home.
Weekdays on CNBC, Ron Insomnia gets into the heart of the day's market action. Hardcore business from all the angles. What you could learn from how the pros make money. An insight that's uniquely Ron. Street Signs, weekdays on CNBC. Make it your business.
Street Signs, weekdays at 11 a.m. on CNBC, is brought to you locally by
Pacific Continental. The Right Back.
It's time to cash in on a winning pair from Comcast. Call 1-866-SO-FAST-1 to get America's #1 high-speed internet for just $19.99 per month. And Comcast Digital Voice with unlimited local and long-distance calling for only $24.99 a month. That's less than $45 a month for the pair. Plus, order both services during this 2-week sale and get free professional installation. Win big with Comcast. Call 1-866-SO-FAST-1 by October 31st and save over $300.
Aragos on the murder of a prominent attorney's wife. Larry King, CNN 9 Eastern.
Tonight, Walmart critics say they have new reasons to worry about the company's, what shall we call it, aggressive growth strategy. Walmart now wants to expand its reach into banking. Critics say if Walmart has its way, local banks will go the way of local retailers, run out of business by Walmart. Your community will be a Walmart community. Kitty Pilgrim has the story.
Walmart wants to go into banking. It has filed with the FDIC to process the debt and credit card transactions for its own stores, 3,500 of them across the country, to cut down on its bank fees, adding the savings from capturing these fees could be returned to customers in the form of lower prices. But a number of professional and consumer groups say while Walmart is talking about only limited banking operations now, it could expand into other banking areas.
That plan can always be amended or modified, and future Walmart management, say the year 2010, 2012, could say we want full-blown banking operations.
Watchdog groups and legislators worry that Walmart may overpower small commercial banks, as it has with small businesses in many towns across the country.
This is another step in another dangerous direction where Walmart would be able to have unprecedented economic power. The sad reality here is Walmart is not only interested in monopolizing the American economy, they're interested in monopolizing the American way of life, right down to where we bank.
Walmart is a troubling institution. When I talk to people in my district who are smaller business people, retailers, local home builders, they want to have a local bank to deal with.
Congress held hearings today during which banks objected to Walmart's plan.
We're not afraid of competition. We're afraid of the consequences of the mixing of commerce and banking. That's what we're afraid of.
A banking industry group said the impact on local communities could potentially be disastrous. They believe that serious regulatory oversight is necessary, and some legislators and bank associations say if the FDIC does not hold hearings, they will ask for the Federal Reserve to get involved, and there will certainly be more of a move in Congress to take up the issue. Lou?
Well, the FDIC will be ruling on this and making a judgment. Have they received some complaints here?
They have received a record number of protest letters when Walmart filed, yes.
And, I mean, what kind of idiots do you have? I mean, this is just remarkable. Is there anything that Walmart doesn't want to do?
Well, many people are trying to make this as public as possible to show just where we're going.
Well, that direction is an interesting one, to say the very least. Kitty, thank you very much. Kitty Pilgrim. Turning now to rising outrage in this country over the president's waiver of the Davis-Bacon Act. That waiver has denied the prevailing wage for Americans who will be working to rebuild the Gulf Coast following Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. My next guests know firsthand the devastating impact of that decision, as well as the waiver of documentation for those workers. Al Knight and Mike Moran were hired by a Halliburton subsidiary to supply electricians for work at the Belle Chase Naval Air Station in Louisiana. They were hired at the prevailing wage for 20 months of work. But once they started, they were asked, they say, to train low-paid, unskilled workers who spoke no English. After 3 weeks on the job, they claimed they were fired. Al Knight, Mike Moran testified yesterday about the experience, joining us from New Orleans, of course. We should mention, we invited the president of the subcontractor who hired you, gentlemen, BE&K, to join us tonight, but he declined. Al Knight, let me begin with you. You testified that you believe your workers, who were local qualified electricians, 92% of whom were impacted by either Hurricanes Katrina or Rita, were dismissed as a direct result of the Davis-Bacon Act waiver. Why?
Lou, I believe, and hi Lou, how you doing?
Doing good.
All right. I believe that the reason why that we were dismissed from the project is probably simply because that lower wages being paid to out-of-state workers on a federal government facility is where we were working with 75 electricians. Just by the waiver of the Davis-Bacon Act invites and opens up the doors for a flood of out-of-state workers. And the only thing that our workers wanted and we paid was the same wage that they had before the hurricane ever hit. And we're paying them the same wage at the time that we were hired to do a contract.
And you felt that the BE&K had given you a guarantee that you would have how much work?
On our original agreement initially, when I called the hall to get 75 qualified electricians, the call was for a 20-month contract that we're working 7 days a week and 12 hours a day.
Let me ask Mike Moran, your general foreman there, and you were teaching people English there to who you were working with?
Well, between trying to teach them how to do electrical work and teach them how to speak a little English, I do speak a little Spanish, so I can communicate with them at least on a limited basis.
And now the people you taught both English and electrical work, as you put it, are they still employed on the job?
We don't know. We were asked to leave the job on October 1st, and we don't know who remains there.
Now, I want to, if I may, Al Knight, read to you a response that we got from the company saying, if we can pull that screen up so our viewers can see it, and it's a letter from you to BE&K saying, we fully understand the reason why Knight Enterprises released us from the previous task order, providing and agree with BE&K's decision referenced in the letter. In light of what you experienced and what you're saying here tonight, why would you write such a letter? Al?
Well, the reason why I wrote the reason why I wrote the letter, Lou, is because in order to, well, the first thing and primary thing, in order to receive our last payment for our labor that we had on the job, BE&K called me and they said that they were under a congressional inquiry and that they needed a letter stating that we understood the reason why that we were released from the job, and in order for my funds to flow through, I provided them with a letter.
All right. Well, that's a tough spot to be in. We appreciate you gentlemen being here. We hope that we can continue to shed some lights on what is happening, some light on what's happening down there as we try to rebuild the Gulf. We thank you gentlemen for your time here tonight. Al Knight and Mike Moran. Gentlemen, thank you. Still ahead here, the results of our poll tonight and a preview of what's coming up tomorrow. Stay with us.
I'm always here, working. A low profile on the high plateau, vanishing in the shadows of the buttes. Bred to be nature's neighbor, reaching miles deep for energy America needs. A natural gas well, meeting the demand in harmony with the land. With still more to explore.
Welcome. The rules in Finlandistan, Albanistan are quite unique. I hope you had a chance to review them.
It's tennis. How different can it be?
It's not easy being out of your element, especially when it comes to insurance and investing. Genworth Financial and your financial professional can help you understand your choices and then make the right ones, so you'll be ready for whatever the future throws your way.
Send in the llamas!
My business spends thousands of dollars on materials,
on supplies,
on equipment.
So when I heard about a credit card that gives you up to 5% cash back,
I didn't need a second opinion.
With the Platinum Business Cash Rebate Card from American Express, you can get up to 5% cash back automatically with no limit on how much you can earn. Call 1-800-NOW-OPEN to apply.
Cash back on EKG machines.
cash back on drywall, on engines,
on computers.
even pizza.
There's no annual fee and no interest for 6 months. Plus, you'll get the service you deserve from Open, the small business team at American Express.
$640 back. Nice.
The Platinum Business Cash Rebate Card from American Express. Call now for a 60-second decision and start getting up to 5% cash back.
Cash back that goes right back into my pocket.
Now the results of our poll tonight. 91% of you say that every illegal alien caught in this country should be deported. Thanks for being with us tonight. Please join us here tomorrow when our guest will include Congressman Mike Pence, who's introduced a federal shield law to protect journalists, and a critical test of the controversial No Child Left Behind Act. Tomorrow, we'll be talking with the head of the group in charge of grading our nation's schools. Are they making the grade? We'll find out here tomorrow night. Please be with us. For all of us here, thanks for joining us tonight. Good night from New York. Anderson Cooper 360 starts right now. Anderson?
Good evening. We are live in New Orleans, 50 days after Katrina, 25 days after Rita. How far has New Orleans come, and more importantly, how far does it have to go? Find out tonight. 360 starts now.
From Bourbon Street to the 9th Ward, a mixed bag of progress. But who's benefiting from the rebuilding? Are the jobs going to immigrants instead of locals who desperately need the work? A witness to a brutal beating. Tonight, she speaks for the first time about what happened on Bourbon Street.
He wasn't struggling. He wasn't fighting back. I did not see him fight back.
What she saw and what she said to the cops that night. A CNN exclusive. Wilma, now a hurricane on its way to becoming a major storm and heading for Florida. How much danger is ahead? The new video game that shows pro football at its nastiest.
Your day is about to be over.
Broken bones, prostitutes, trash talk, and a mature rating. What will parents say? She's tiny and fearless. The first, the only woman to race in the Indy 500. Did she punch out another racer while duking it out on the track?
Portions of Ask This Old House are brought to you by GMC, makers of professional-grade trucks and SUVs.